Chapter 1328. Without further ado, Yi Xian checked the benefits of cultivating this devouring beast. An ordinary devouring beast was worth 1 devouring point, but if this devouring beast was nurtured to the second order, it would be worth 2 devouring points. Other than that, this devouring beast could also reproduce, but there was a prerequisite. The devouring beasts had to be male and female, and they had to be of the same species. One was a snake, and the other was a scorpion, although there was a beast tribe called the scorpion snake. This devouring beast in my hand is already at 80% experience points of the first order. If it matures to the second order, it will be worth 2 devouring points. Yi Xian agreed to nurture this devouring beast. This devouring beast nurturing function only appeared after the planting space appeared. The mini black scorpion was sent into a cage in a corner of the planting space. This cage was specially used by the system to imprison devouring beasts. As for the devouring beast's growth, it was quite simple. That was to absorb origin energy. Of course, if there was a large number of corpses, its growth would be faster. This time, Yi Xian had profited greatly. When this mini black scorpion matured to the second order, he would be able to obtain 2 devouring points. Bastard! The black-robed young man, Shi, roared in anger. That mini black scorpion was something he had tamed with great difficulty, but now it was sent to God knows where by Yi Xian. Naturally, he was enraged. At the same time, he did not expect that the mini black scorpion, which even a third stage of the fragmentation realm expert could not capture, would be captured by Yi Xian, a second stage of the fragmentation realm expert. Die for me! Shi was enraged. He turned into a streak of black light and shot towards Yi Xian. Sila! 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 Crisp sounds rang out. Crisp sounds rang out one after another. Those martial practitioners at the third level of the fragmentation realm who had rushed up together with the first elder had all died in an instant. Even the first elder was not spared. With the eye of revelation, Yi Xian saw clearly what had killed so many people. It was a thin black whip. This Cthulhuism cult leader is indeed from the scorpion tribe, but he cut off his own tail and made it into a weapon. Yi Xian immediately understood. But for now, he should deal with Shi first. It seems if I don't show my true strength, I'm afraid I will die in your hands. A light glimmered in his eyes. He summoned Wei Zhentian and the old tree. Curtain of darkness. Storm of swords blades. And attacked. Shi, Huang, and Yi Xian. At the same time, Yi Xian's eyes flashed. He issued a death order to Shi, while he himself fled into the darkness. The black whip in Shi hand danced crazily, each strike accurately sending a person's head flying. But after he finished cleaning up, he discovered that Yi Xian had disappeared. It was dark all around. Seeing this, the third elder of the west courtyard hurriedly retreated with his people, fearing that they would be affected. Punk, so it's you. Come out here. Shi roared as he blocked the storm of swords. Wei Zhentian and the old tree had exposed Yi Xian's identity. Therefore, Shi knew that Yi Xian was the culprit who killed his father and annihilated the Cthulhuism cult he had built. It seemed like he had found the right place. At this time, Yi Xian, who had disappeared into the darkness, used the dark shadow steps to appear on the other side. There were several corpses here. I'll take them. Without hesitation, Yi Xian collected the first elder, second elder, and several third stage of the fragmentation realm experts' corpses. Ding! Wei Zhentian broke through. Current cultivation is at third stage of the fragmentation realm. Ding! Host broke through. Current cultivation is at third stage of the fragmentation realm. The 2 system notifications gave Yi Xian the confidence to kill Shi. Erupt with killing intent. Unparalleled flame dragon slash. Yi Xian slashed his sword at Shi back. Swish, swish. A golden flame dragon whistled out, illuminating the surroundings. Found you. Shi, who was inside the storm of swords, suddenly turned around. The long whip in his hand straightened, turning into a single sword. Devil-piercing stab. Shi gathered his true chi and stabbed out with his right hand. A powerful force swept out, splitting the golden flame dragon into 2 heads. However, this move was merely Yi Xian's bait. Eye of assassination. Taking advantage of the moment Shi attacked, Yi Xian's eyes glimmered. He disappeared in the blink of an eye, reappearing behind Shi. Erupt with killing intent. Devil-piercing stab. The scarlet flame sword in Yi Xian's hand pierced into Shi Juin's head. Chaotic true qi minced Shi Juin's brain. Ding. Host's killing intent has increased. Shi Juin was the fiend god cult's leader, but he was an arrogant person who did not put Yi Xian in his eyes. Hence, he was killed by Yi Xian's trump card. In truth, Yi Xian did not need to use the death pursuit order and eye of assassination. Just Wei Zhentian's storm of swords was more than enough to deal with Shi Juin. However, Yi Xian played his trump card just in case. Now, the fiend god cult was completely annihilated. Shi Juin had killed the two elders, and Yi Xian had killed Shi Juin in a split second. His strength was undeniable. Even if the entire Hu family joined forces, they were still no match for the storm of swords. Hence, Yi Xian had no reason to be afraid of others. Let me see what you, the fiend god cult's leader, have obtained. Yi Xian put away Shi Juin's spatial ring and checked its contents. Inside the spatial ring, there were large amounts of faith crystals and precious treasures. Other than that, there was also a fiend god's secret record. This fiend god's secret record was most likely the fiend god's inheritance. Inside, it recorded how to build the fiend god's altar and statue, as well as the faith crystals. Other than that, it was also a cultivation technique. Anyone who cultivated the fiend god's secret record would become the fiend god's most loyal apostle. That was why there was no faith crystal inside Shi Juin's head. The fiend god cult's faith crystal is condensed from the fiend god cult's leader's true qi. Yi Xian immediately understood. Because the fiend god cult's leader cultivated the fiend god's secret record, only he could condense the faith crystal with his true qi. Others couldn't. In short, the fiend god cult's leader Shi Juin was here to give Yi Xian some benefits. Not only did he give Shi Juin a devouring beast, but there was also a large amount of faith crystals. As for the fiend god's secret record, Yi Xian had only copied it down. He had no intention of cultivating it. After all, if he cultivated it, he would be controlled by the fiend god. Chapter 1329. The people from the west courtyard were also shocked when they saw the bloodstains on the ground. Then, where's the man in black? The third elder couldn't help but ask. I killed him and kept his body, Yi Xian answered casually. The bodies of third or fourth stage fragmentation realm martial artists could be given to the heavenly treasure tree or the mini black scorpion to grow, so Yi Xian naturally wouldn't waste them. Killed. The third elder swallowed his saliva. That black-clothed youth had killed 2 experts at the 4th level of the fragmentation realm in a row. But now, he died at the hands of Yi Xian. In that case, wouldn't Yi Xian's strength be even stronger? Although Yi Xian only gave off the aura of a 3rd stage fragmentation realm martial artist, the third elder and the others believed that Yi Xian was definitely not a 3rd stage fragmentation realm martial artist. He might be a 5th or even 6th stage fragmentation realm martial artist. Otherwise, how could he be so ridiculously strong? Sir, you are? The third elder asked in shock. I'm friends with Hu Lai, Yi Xian answered casually. Hu Lai? Hearing this, the third elder couldn't help but look at the corpse that was gradually turning cold. It was unbelievable that Hu Lai was acquainted with such a powerful martial artist. Just now, he was still worried that the west courtyard would be affected. He didn't expect that it would be resolved now. The 2 elders and a few fragmentation realm martial artists in the east courtyard were all dead, so they couldn't fight against the west courtyard anymore. Next, they could merge the east courtyard with the west courtyard. In the future, the Hu family would still be the Hu family, except that a few leaders had died. Hu Lai brought me to his father, Yi Xian added. This Hu Tai isn't in the Hu family now. He's been out for some time and hasn't returned yet. It seems that he went to the Myriad Treasure Alliance in the east, the third elder replied with a frown. Originally, he wouldn't tell others about his grandson's whereabouts, but Yi Xian had resolved the Hu family's crisis, so there shouldn't be any problem. All right, thank you very much. Yi Xian cupped his fists at the third elder, then took out a book from his Qian Kuan ring and threw it over. While I was training, I happened to obtain the Heart Sutra of Charm. I'll give it to you today. When they heard Yi Xian's words, everyone was shocked. Heart Sutra of Charm. It was actually the Heart Sutra of Charm. The third elder was so shocked that he was speechless. Charm Fusion Crystal, Charm Heart Sutra, Eyes of Charm. As long as he successfully cultivated all 3, he would be able to grow 9 tails. Every time there was a change, there was a chance that the bloodline in his body could be activated. The Hu clan originally only had two, and now that they had obtained the missing third, the Hu clan would become even more powerful in the future. Thank you, Your Excellency. The third elder hurriedly expressed his gratitude. There's no need to thank me. If I meet your grandson next, I might kill him. After Yi Xian said this in his heart, he quietly left. Now that he knew Hu Tai's whereabouts, he had to rush over to the Thousand Treasure Alliance to take a look. The Thousand Treasure Alliance was in the map he obtained. It was said that the Thousand Treasure Alliance was once an ancient battlefield, so some people formed a treasure hunting team there. Over time it developed into a force. Luo Luo had already obtained the method to cultivate the Eyes of Charm. Now, she only needed time to cultivate the Eyes of Charm. The Eyes of Charm could not only enhance the ability of charm, but also enhance the effect of the Eyes of Charm. In addition, it could also make Luo Luo change her appearance, stimulating the Heavenly Fox bloodline in her body, and increasing the density of the bloodline. Of course, Yi Xian's Beast God bloodline could also be upgraded. He just didn't know when he would be able to cultivate the Eyes of Charm. A day after Yi Xian left the Hu clan and rushed to the Thousand Treasure Alliance, Luo Luo finally sent news. Young master, let me out. Luo Luo hurriedly said. When Yi Xian heard this, he quickly let Luo Luo out. At this time, he was in the depths of a mountain, preparing to cross it. Young master, I've already cultivated the Eyes of Charm to the final level. I'll be able to complete it soon, but I need to do it outside, Luo Luo explained. Although there was Yuan Qi of heaven and earth in the planting space, it was an independent space that was created. It was fundamentally different from the greater Thousand World, so Yi Xian didn't think too much about it. All right, then continue. I'll protect you. Yi Xian nodded and released Wei Zhentian and the old tree to protect her. Due to Yi Xian's increase in cultivation, the old tree quickly broke through to the third stage of the fragmentation realm. With him and Wei Zhentian patrolling the surroundings and Yi Xian's personal bodyguard, Luo Luo wouldn't be in danger. However, this was the territory of the Thousand Treasure Alliance, so there might be people coming to search for treasures. Although Yi Xian had only left the Hu family for a day, his shadow steps was extremely fast. It was equivalent to 4 or 5 days for other people. Luo Luo continued to cultivate. The surrounding Yuan Qi of heaven and earth madly gathered toward the mountain. Its effect was no less than the spirit gathering formation. When Luo Luo breaks through this time, she'll be able to evolve into a 9-tailed beast. At that time, my beast god bloodline might mutate as well. Yi Xian was very curious. He just didn't know how long it would take for Luo Luo to mutate this time. Yi Xian stayed by Luo Luo's side and observed the changes in her body. After about half an hour, Luo Luo's left eye turned pink. This wasn't because she was using her charm, but because she had successfully cultivated the Eyes of Charm. Next it was her right eye. However, right at that moment, a group of people nearby noticed the change in the surroundings. There were 3 people in this group. They were dressed the same, with the word treasure embroidered on their backs. The leader was in the 4th stage of the fragmentation realm, while the other 2 were in the 3rd stage of the fragmentation realm. They were quite strong. Senior brother, do you feel that the Yuan Qi of heaven and earth here is a little strange? A young man with small eyes asked. Yes, the Yuan Qi of heaven and earth here seems to be moving to the west. The leader nodded. Who knows, another treasure might have appeared. Last month, I heard that a Tier 5 heaven-piercing artifact was unearthed in this area. Although it is a damaged item, it is still much stronger than a Tier 4 heaven-piercing artifact, another person said, his eyes shining. A 5th-grade divine weapon was a Nirvana realm treasure. It was almost impossible to find such a thing in this area. Let's go and take a look. The leader led the 2 people in the direction where the Yuan Qi of heaven and earth gathered. However, at this moment, a figure suddenly rushed toward them. Who is it? The leader paused and shouted in a low voice. The newcomer was a bald old man in dark green clothes. He was the old tree who was patrolling this area. Chapter 1330. Young man, this is a dead end. Old tree cut straight to the chase. The 3 of them frowned when they heard this. The young man in the lead asked in surprise. Who are you? Why are you asking us to take a detour? Just take a detour. Young man, don't talk too much. Old tree snorted. Old man, I don't know where you came from. Get out of the way, or don't blame me for being rude. the small-eyed young man scolded angrily. You little brat. How dare you shoot your mouth off? You're asking for a beating. Old Tree's bad temper instantly showed, and he attacked. You're asking for it. The small-eyed young man was also very angry, and he went up to meet him. However, what shocked the other two was that the small-eyed young man was actually sent flying by the bald old man's slap. Junior brother Lin. The young man in the lead widened his eyes and drew his long sword. Old man, you attacked first, so don't blame us for being ruthless. The two of them also rushed out in an instant. One of them was at the 4th level of the fragmentation realm, and the other two were at the 3rd level of the fragmentation realm. This team's strength was not bad. Although Old Tree was only at the 3rd level of the fragmentation realm, he was no ordinary person. The fragmentation realm mainly relied on one's physique. At the same level, the physique of a heaven-reaching beast was much stronger than that of a human. Coupled with the enhancement of the beast god's bloodline, Old Tree was not afraid of these 3 people at all. So what if it was 1 against 3? Boom! 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 In an instant, the 4 of them wrestled together. Old Tree fought with the 3 of them with his hard iron fists and actually gained the upper hand. You 3 brats. I'll give you another piece of advice. Hurry up and get out of here, or don't blame me. Old Tree's voice, full of vicissitudes, fell into the ears of the 3 people. Get out of here, you motherfasterous cur. The small-eyed young man, who was sent flying by the punch, was furious and began to curse. You're the ones who asked for it, so don't blame me. Old Tree's eyes suddenly flashed. If it was before in the primitive world of the wood spirit, if someone dared to provoke him, he would naturally attack. However, Xianxia was his master now, so it was best to ask Xianxia about this matter. However, just a moment ago, Xianxia had already agreed to let Old Shu settle this matter himself. After obtaining Xianxia's consent, Old Shu's body suddenly expanded. His entire body expanded by several times as he transformed into a devil tree battle soldier. Old Shu in his human form was already stronger than them. Now that he was in his original form, wouldn't he be able to beat them into minced meat with a single punch? Call. A beam of golden light soared into the sky and then exploded. Wei Zhentian. Old Tree, who had transformed into his original form, was 100% confident that he could deal with these 3 people. Now that Wei Zhentian had come to help, the other party couldn't escape. At this time, Xianxia, who was guarding beside Luo, was also looking into the distance. Since they're fellow disciples, they should be the treasure-seeking sect of the Myriad Treasures Alliance, Xianxia thought to himself. The Myriad Treasures Alliance was composed of 2 major forces. One was called Myriad Treasure City, and the other was called the Treasure-Seeking Sect. The people of these 2 forces were always on the move, looking for something unusual in this area, because there might be treasures. However, Luo was at a critical time now, so she couldn't be disturbed. Whoever dared to trespass would die. With the Eye of Revelation, Xianxia could watch the whole battle. In less than 3 seconds, the 3 disciples of the treasure-seeking sect were killed by Old Tree and Wei Zhentian. However, the signal just now wasn't intercepted. So many people would gather soon. Whoever comes will die. Xianxia's eyes flickered. After the 3 disciples of the treasure-seeking sect died, Wei Zhentian returned with their corpses. Xianxia checked the 3 people's interspatial rings. Sure enough, the 3 of them were disciples of the treasure-seeking sect. Is this the treasure-seeking ruler of the treasure-seeking sect? At this time, Xianxia suddenly took out a strange object. This object was specially used by the Myriad Treasures Alliance to find treasures. Xianxia took it out and saw that the arrowhead of the treasure-seeking ruler was spinning crazily. This meant that this was the place where the treasure was unearthed. Luo's situation is very similar to when a treasure is unearthed. Xianxia didn't think too much and put away the treasure-seeking ruler. Old Tree, Wei Zhentian, continue patrolling. Maybe more people will come. Xianxia said in his mind. The signal just now didn't cover a large area, but there were people from the treasure-seeking sect and Myriad Treasure City in the vicinity, so they all gathered. There were 8 people at the 4th level of the fragmentation realm, and the rest were at least at the 3rd level of the fragmentation realm. This wasn't the main point. The main point was that there were 2 5th-level fragmentation realm experts. At this time, they had already gathered outside Luo's seclusion site. Young Master, there are many people gathered outside. Old Tree reported. During this time, He had already formed a giant wood protection barrier. With the recovery ability of the Divine Tree of Life's bloodline, this giant wood protection barrier's defensive ability was extremely strong. It couldn't be broken by ordinary people. As long as the two 5th level fragmentation realm experts didn't attack, it wouldn't be a problem to block the others. At this time, two large groups had gathered outside the giant wood protection barrier. Both groups happened to have a 5th level fragmentation realm expert. Captain Chen, I didn't expect you to be here too. A black-clad old man looked at the other side not far away. On the other side, the leader of the brawny men grinned and said, Elder Joie, you're here too. No need to be so polite. The black-clad old man waved his hand and said, What do you think of this guardian formation? It's also my first time seeing it, but this guardian formation is constantly growing. We'll just attack it directly. The brawny man replied. Then what do you think will be inside? The black-clad old man continued to ask. At this time, someone suddenly interrupted, I came to this mountain an hour ago. There was no such thing at that time. So it just appeared. The brawny man knocked his head and said, Is the person who sent the signal here? As soon as he finished speaking, no one answered. Did they enter before this guardian formation was formed? The brawny man muttered, turned his head and said, Elder Joie, let's attack together. We'll split the spoils equally after this. No problem. The black-clad old man agreed. He was from the treasure-seeking sect, and this brawny man was from Myriad Treasure City. The two sides often cooperated, so they were already used to it. Chapter 1331. Someone's here. The treasure-seeking sect and Million Treasure Cities teams all looked over. This white-clothed youth was at the 3rd level of the fragmentation realm. He was Yi Xian. My sister is breaking through inside. I'll give you a chance to scram. Yi Xian's eyes flickered. He was now at the 3rd level of the fragmentation realm. Even facing two 5th level fragmentation realm martial artists was a piece of cake. Yes, in his eyes, there were only two 5th level fragmentation realm martial artists. Because the others were already under his control one by one. His words were meant for these two people. Although he was not afraid of them, he was afraid that the sound of battle would disturb Luo. Kid, you're only at the 3rd level of the fragmentation realm. How dare you speak so arrogantly? The brawny man glared. The black-clothed old man continued. You came out of the formation. Did you set up this formation? I told you, my sister is breaking through inside. Yi Xian was not prepared to answer this question. His face darkened. How can a breakthrough trigger such a huge amount of heaven and earth origin energy? This is clearly a sign that something is about to happen to a treasure. Kid, you'd better retreat quickly, or else. The black-clothed old man's eyes flickered. His eyes were suddenly filled with killing intent. Or else what? Yi Xian asked subconsciously. Or else, don't blame me. Before the black-clothed old man could finish speaking, several 4th level fragmentation realm martial practitioners behind him suddenly attacked him. Bang! 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 4 muffled sounds rang out and fell into everyone's ears. Everyone in the brawny man's team turned to look and saw the black-clothed old man's body suddenly falling from the sky. The wound on his back was so deep that the bone could be seen, and his heart was pierced through. A 5th level fragmentation realm martial artist died just like that. What happened? The brawny man was shocked. The black-clothed old man belonged to the treasure-seeking sect. The people behind him were also disciples of the treasure-seeking sect. But why did these disciples suddenly attack and kill the black-clothed old man? Whoosh whoosh. At this time, the wind blew again. The group of disciples behind the brawny man also launched a sneak attack. Boom. The brawny man flew forward for a while. Fortunately, after the black-clothed old man died, he subconsciously poured out his true qi to defend himself. Because of this, he saved his life. However, after he was attacked, Yi Xian also suddenly rushed out. He had given his opponent 2 chances, but his opponent did not cherish them. Eruption of killing intent. Unparalleled flame dragon slash. A golden flaming dragon instantly engulfed the burly man. However, the burly man had already gathered all of his true qi to use a defensive divine ability before he was attacked, so he was not killed by the attack. The golden flaming dragon once again engulfed the brawny man at the 5th level of the fragmentation realm. This time he was unable to block it. A system notification sounded. A 5th-level fragmentation realm martial artist was killed by Yi Xian. Then, Yi Xian glanced at the giant tree protection barrier. He was afraid that the sound of the battle would disturb Luo, so he asked the two of them to leave. He did not expect them to court death. In this way, he also obtained a lot of spoils. Immediately, he gathered everyone's interspatial rings together. Just a little more. Yi Xian was a little helpless. 2 5th-level fragmentation realm martial artists, 8 4th-level fragmentation realm martial artists, and more than 33rd-level fragmentation realm martial artists. The wealth of these people combined was not enough for him to break through to the 4th level of the fragmentation realm. What a tragedy. Forget it. Yi Xian shook his head and then ordered everyone, all of you spread out and patrol. If anyone dares to come close, attack directly. Yes. The 40 over people said in unison. Such a force was enough to defend against 2 5th-level fragmentation realm martial artists. In addition to the giant tree protection barrier, Luo should not have any problems. At this time, Luo's mutation was coming to an end. However, Yi Xian still felt that something was strange, but he could not put his finger on it. Nothing should happen, right? Yi Xian comforted himself in his heart. Luo was in the middle of a breakthrough. If she was suddenly interrupted and kept in the planting space, who knew what would happen? Hence he had to succeed in one go. Fortunately, his worries were unnecessary. Ding! The host's beast god bloodline has evolved. A system notification sounded. Evolved? Hearing this, Yi Xian's eyes lit up. This meant that Luo's mutation was complete. Young master. At this time Luo transmitted her voice. Yi Xian hurriedly returned to the giant tree protection barrier. He saw that Luo had grown 3 new tails. In addition, one of her tails had turned golden. A golden tail? Yi Xian was a little surprised. Previously, Luo had only grown some golden fur, but now, one of her 9 tails had turned completely golden. The heaven-loathing fox bloodline in my body seems to be a golden fox, so I estimate that all of them will turn golden in the future. However, I still need to go into seclusion for a while to consolidate, Luo explained. Yi Xian nodded slightly. This was not a big deal, and there were benefits. After all, this meant that Luo still had room for improvement. He sensed it and found that Luo had only broken through from the 3rd level of the fragmentation realm to the 4th level of the fragmentation realm. However, the faith crystals in Luo's universe ring should be enough for Luo to break through to the 6th level of the fragmentation realm easily. Since you've already broken through, let's set off. Old tree, remove the giant tree protection barrier. Yi Xian said. Okay. Old tree nodded and removed the giant tree protection barrier. As for those people who were tamed, Yi Xian naturally would not let them go. Who asked these people to provoke him? These people were all recruited by Luo. Luo had already cultivated the Eyes of Charm, and the effects of the Eyes of Charm and the Eyes of Charm had both improved. It was not a problem to charm these people. The 8 of you, follow me to Million Treasure City. Yi Xian said to these 8 martial artists at the 4th level of the fragmentation realm. Yes, master. The 8 of them nodded. Among these 8 people, 4 were from Million Treasure City, and the other 4 were from treasure-seeking sect. Previously, the Hu clan's 3rd clan elder said that Hu Lai's father, Hu Tai, had gone to Million Treasure City. So Yi Xian's target this time was Million Treasure City. With these people leading the way, he would be able to find it faster. Set off. Then, Yi Xian continued on his journey. However, these people's speed was very slow. With their speed, it would take at least 2 days to rush back to Million Treasure City. Therefore, Yi Xian abandoned them in the end and used shadow steps to travel alone. This way, it would only take less than a day's time. However, not long after he left, a huge tremor occurred in the ground, and the source of the tremor was behind him. Rumble. Chapter 1332. What's going on? Yi Xian was surprised and released the old tree, and old tree. This used to be a battlefield. Treasures are often unearthed. Could it be the same this time? Old tree said in shock. 1,000 years ago, there was a Nirvana realm force here, but it was destroyed. Therefore, the treasures here were probably worth a lot. Let's go back and take a look. Yi Xian made up his mind. If a 5th stage divine artifact was unearthed, then it would be a huge gain. Once he devoured it, he might be able to break through several times. Immediately, he used shadow steps and rushed in the direction of the treasure. At first, there was only some hot lava, but the closer he got to the source of the earthquake, the more geocentric flame demons appeared. Yi Xian had seen flame demons many times. However, this geocentric flame demon was much stronger than ordinary flame demons. Its entire body was golden, and it was more handsome than ordinary flame demons. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Yi Xian encountered a geocentric flame demon, which directly pounced on him. This speed is at least at the 5th stage of the fragmentation realm. Yi Xian was shocked and hurriedly attacked. Killing intent explosion. Unparalleled flame dragon slash. A golden flame dragon roared out and collided with the geocentric flame demon. However, what surprised Yi Xian was that the geocentric flame demon actually absorbed the golden flame dragon. After absorbing the golden flame dragon, the geocentric flame demon's body suddenly grew to 2 meters tall. What the F***CK? Yi Xian raised his eyebrows. He suddenly remembered that the flame dragon was also of the fire attribute. This was a disguised way to increase the opponent's strength. In that case, he would use the ice attribute. Ice and Fire Dual Dragon Sword Array. Ice Dragon Roar. Since the flames formed by the All Creations force would be absorbed, he could only use the ice attribute to restrain it. A blue ice dragon's aura erupted and swallowed the geocentric flame demon. Immediately, the geocentric flame demon's body shrank by 1 size. It was effective. So what if you're in the 5th tier of the fragmentation realm? I'll kill you. Yi Xian's doppelganger wielding the Azure Ice Sword attacked again, whereas his main body used the devil-destroying spike that he had learned from Shi Zhuyin. After a few rounds, the geocentric flame demon was eliminated, leaving behind a core. These elemental creatures had weak points all over their bodies. As long as an attack landed on their body, it would cause damage. Once they were injured, their strength would drop, so they were easier to deal with. After the death of this geocentric flame demon, he quickly went over and kept the core of the earth before devouring it. Unfortunately, the benefits from the core of the earth were negligible to him. However, it was a significant amount to Wei Zhentian. Ding! Wei Zhentian has broken through. He is currently at the 4th stage of the fragmentation stage. The system prompted. This geocentric flame devil must have unearthed some kind of treasure since it came out from underground. However, we may encounter more geocentric flame devils in the following path, or even geocentric flame devils at the 6th or 7th stage of the fragmentation realm, Yi Xian pondered. He was about to break through to the 4th stage of the fragmentation realm, and so was the old tree. They should be able to protect themselves. Hence, Yi Xian chose to continue forward to see what kind of treasure would appear. At the same time, the commotion here had attracted the attention of the surrounding forces. The commotion this time was probably the biggest one this year. Hence, the surrounding forces had all sent experts over. Yi Xian had already expected this. Hence, he had to break through to the 4th stage of the fragmentation realm as soon as possible. Only then would he have a chance to obtain the treasure. Because the earth was already cracked beyond recognition and magma was everywhere, there weren't many places to land. Thus, Yi Xian was unable to use the shadow steps to travel and could only fly. Soon, he encountered the 2nd geocentric flame devil. Burst of killing intent. Roar of ice dragon. Devil-destroying spike. This geocentric flame devil was troublesome to others, but Yi Xian could still handle it. After a few rounds of attacks, this geocentric flame devil died an unnatural death, leaving behind a geocentric core. What a pity! The benefits of devouring this geocentric core are negligible to me. If I just devour this thing, Wei Zhentian might break through to the 5th stage of the fragmentation realm first while I'm still at the 3rd stage of the fragmentation realm. Yi Xian shook his head helplessly. However, at this moment, a figure suddenly stepped into his range of perception. The 5th stage of the fragmentation realm. The newcomer was a young man wearing a golden crown. He was about 30 years old. Judging from his attire, he should be from the treasure-seeking sect. The treasure-seeking sect team that Yi Xian had encountered earlier were only at the 3rd and 4th stage of the fragmentation realm. In the treasure-seeking sect, only those who had reached the 5th stage of the fragmentation realm could participate in the inner sect assessment. To put it simply, those before were outer sect disciples. However, this young man with a golden crown was dressed differently from those people before. He was probably an inner sect disciple of the treasure-seeking sect. Kid, what happened here? The young man with a golden crown had an arrogant look on his face as he questioned Yi Xian. I don't know. Yi Xian replied coldly. If you don't know, then get lost. This isn't a place where you can come. The young man with a golden crown rebuked angrily. In his opinion, Yi Xian was only at the third stage of the fragmentation realm. How dare he come here? He must have a death wish. What did you say? Yi Xian glared at him. What? A piece of trash wants to attack me? The young man with a golden crown was also slightly surprised. I don't know where you get your sense of superiority from. Since that's the case, I'll show you how powerful this piece of trash is. Yi Xian was already used to people like this. If this kind of person did not provoke him, he would not bother with them. However, this young man with a golden crown actually asked him to get lost. This was absolutely intolerable. Mind's eye. Yi Xian's eyes flashed. He directly crossed the distance between them and launched an attack. Boom! The young man with a golden crown trembled as he felt a sharp pain in his head. His soul twitched violently. He immediately understood that Yi Xian had attacked his soul. Good fellow, you're courting death. Don't blame me for this. The young man with a golden crown was furious as he charged towards Yi Xian. He could not use the peerless flame dragon slash and dual dragon roar against the geocentric flame demon. However, he could use these two moves to his heart's content when fighting against humans. However, Yi Xian did not want to kill the young man with a golden crown so easily. The young man with a golden crown was not in the mood to kill Yi Xian. He immediately slashed his sword and went straight for Yi Xian's head. Fifth stage of the fragmentation realm and third stage of the fragmentation realm were 2 stages apart. He did not need to use his divine abilities to deal with Yi Xian. However, this attack was easily defeated by Yi Xian. Peerless Flame Dragon Slash. After the sword chi was defeated, Yi Xian launched a counterattack. However, he did not use his killing intent explosion. Such power. Chapter 1333. Demonic Fist. The golden-crowned young man threw out a hand and destroyed the golden flame dragon. It was just a low-level void-breaking divine power. He was arrogant and disdained to use his ultimate skill against Yi Xian because it was humiliating. Boy, do you think you can fight me with this ultimate skill alone? The golden-crowned young man could not help but mock him. Kill me first. Cut the crap, you piece of trash. Yi Xian scolded him back. Fine. Since you want to die, I'll send you on your way. The golden-crowned young man shouted angrily and threw out a punch with his left fist. Rumble! A series of muffled sounds were heard as the two figures fought in the air. It was hard to tell who had the upper hand. As time went by, the golden-crowned young man's expression became more and more solemn. How was it possible that he could not defeat Yi Xian even though he was at the 5th level of the void-breaking realm? Where did this boy come from? The golden-crowned young man wondered in his heart. However, he did not want to waste any more time because the treasure had been unearthed. He had to get there as soon as possible. Boy, I'll give you a chance to leave now. As long as you, the golden-crowned young man said, but Yi Xian did not wait for him to finish and attacked again. I won't play with you anymore. Take my wrath. Yi Xian suddenly split into 2. Ice and Fire Dual Dragon Sword Array. Killing Intent Explosion. Dual Dragon Roar. This attack was more than 5 times stronger than the previous Peerless Flame Dragon Slash. The golden-crowned young man widened his eyes. By the time he reacted, the roar was already in front of him. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The golden-crowned young man was instantly engulfed. His body was incinerated, leaving nothing behind. He did not expect that he would be killed by a kid at the 3rd level of the void-breaking realm before he could even see the treasure. If he had a choice, he would choose not to make an enemy out of Yi Xian and stay away from him. Unfortunately, it was too late. The golden-crowned young man's body turned into nothingness, but he left 3 things behind. One was an interspatial ring, one was a weapon, and the last was the golden crown on his head. This golden crown is indeed a heaven-defying artifact. It's able to defend against soul attacks. No wonder that brat was able to block my eye of the heart so many times. Yi Xian swallowed the golden crown and his cultivation increased slightly. Things like this could also be exchanged in the shop. Then, he began to count the golden-crowned young man's belongings. Ding! The host has made a breakthrough. The host is currently at the 4th level of the fragmentation stage. The long-awaited system notification finally sounded. He's already at the 4th stage of the fragmentation realm, so the old tree will probably be able to break through soon as well. Yi Xian thought to himself. This was one of the reasons why he had taken the old tree as his 3rd treasure. As long as his cultivation level increased, the effect of the bloodline of the divine tree of life in his body would also increase, and the effect of his blood on the old tree would also increase. To put it simply, the old tree could almost keep up with him, and sometimes even surpass him. Because of that, he was able to raise his cultivation base very quickly. If he had taken ordinary heaven-reaching beasts as his beasts, it would have been too difficult for him to raise his cultivation base. That was why he had only taken 3 beasts so far. There were still 3 left. I've avenged my humiliation, let's hurry. Yi Xian looked into the distance, and his figure flashed. At this time, more than an hour had passed since the earth split open. Those with lower cultivation levels might still be on their way, but those with higher cultivation levels might have already arrived. After breaking through, it was even easier for Yi Xian to deal with the geocentric flame demon. Soon, he saw several martial artists at the 6th stage of the fragmentation realm. Beneath his feet was the place where the old tree had set up the giant wood protection barrier. It was also Lualua's seclusion spot. At this time, this place had already become a magma hell. The bottom was full of magma, and it stretched as far as the eye could see. There were already many people in the air. In addition to the martial artists at the 6th stage of the fragmentation realm, there were also many at the 4th or 5th stage of the fragmentation realm. In fact, Yi Xian even sensed a superpowerhouse who was suspected to be at the 7th stage of the fragmentation realm. They came so quickly. Yi Xian thought to himself. But what he didn't expect was that he would actually come to Lualua's seclusion spot. Could it be that the reason why the treasure-seeking ruler spun crazily just now wasn't because of Lualuo, but because this place was originally a treasure location? Yi Xian suddenly thought of this question. Lualua's breakthrough earlier had stirred up the heaven and earth origin qi, so he didn't pay much attention to it. Now, it seemed that perhaps because Lualuo was breaking through, the treasure buried deep underground formed a miraculous structure, causing this treasure to be unearthed. He just didn't know what kind of treasure it was. Last time, there was a mountain giant that had been sleeping for 1,000 years. It had a broken Tier 5 divine artifact on its body. This time, there's actually lava. This seems to be even deeper than the ancient battlefield. Yeah, I also have a feeling that this time is no small matter. Maybe it's not a treasure that's unearthed, but the birth of a powerful divine artifact. The geocentric flame demons in this area have already been wiped out. I don't know if new ones will appear. Let's watch from afar first. A few treasure-seeking sect disciples whispered to each other. Although the ground cracked and large amounts of magma gushed out, it seemed like the treasure hadn't appeared yet because the heaven and earth essence qi hadn't dispersed yet. There was a 7th stage fragmentation realm expert present. He wasn't from treasure-seeking sect or Million Treasure City, but from a family clan established in the wilderness. With his realm, his spiritual consciousness couldn't penetrate the magma, so he was also waiting. With his realm, as long as the treasure appeared, he could immediately snatch it. No one present could stop him. The spiritual consciousness of the surrounding people couldn't penetrate the magma either, but Yi Xian's eye of revelation could. There's actually a large number of geocentric flame demons hidden underground? Yi Xian was shocked. He saw a large number of geocentric flame demons in the huge underground cavern that was gushing out magma continuously. There were at least a few hundred of them. Most importantly, there seemed to be 6th and 7th stage fragmentation realm experts among these geocentric flame demons. Retreat first, let the others be cannon fodder. Yi Xian subconsciously swallowed his saliva. If this group of geocentric flame demons suddenly charged out, the dozens of people present would probably be instantly surrounded and killed. However, this group of geocentric flame demons seemed to be waiting for something. They only moved in the magma and didn't have any intention of charging out. In this magma ocean, my dark shadow steps can't be used. I can only use the shadow of the Wind Rider Dragon. It's better to be cautious. For safety's sake, Yi Xian temporarily retreated to the back and let the others be cannon fodder. If there was danger, he could react in time and escape. The surrounding people all waited cautiously. In addition, more people came one after another. In less than half an hour, more than 100 people had gathered. Chapter 1334. Ding! The Devil Tree Battle Soldier has broken through. He is currently at the 4th level of the fragmentation realm. A system notification suddenly rang. The old tree is restrained by the geocentric flame demon. His combat strength is probably not as good as Wei Zhentian's. I should let him continue cultivating first. Yi Xian thought in his heart. At this time, he was thinking that if he took away the universe rings of everyone present, he could at least break through to the 5th level of the fragmentation realm. Wei Zhentian could even reach the 6th level of the fragmentation realm. However, what he needed most at this time was cannon fodder, so he endured. After all, there were still a few 6th level and a 7th level fragmentation realm martial artists. Time slowly passed. When around 150 people had gathered, the magma spring suddenly erupted into a pillar of magma that soared into the sky. Careful, don't get hit by the magma. A martial artist shouted loudly. Even if he did not warn them, the people around him understood. The magma below could easily cut through the flesh of a 5th level fragmentation realm martial artist, and this pillar of magma that soared into the sky was even hotter. Even a 6th level fragmentation realm martial artist did not dare to be careless. Back off. Run. Away from it. Chapter 1335. No one knew if the eternal earth core fire was left behind from the great battle thousands of years ago, or if it had always been hidden underground. But generally speaking, this mysterious fire was very precious. If I get it and devour it, my cultivation level might increase by a few levels. Yi Xian licked his dry lips, and a greedy look appeared in his eyes. He must get this mysterious fire. This mysterious fire seems to be the eternal earth core fire that's ranked 93rd on the mysterious fire list. At this time, another person shouted. The eternal earth core fire was usually born underground. After some time, the eternal earth core fire could give birth to geocentric flame demons. In other words, the geocentric flame demons and the flame demon overlord were all born from the eternal earth core fire. When the surrounding people heard the name eternal earth core fire, they also showed a greedy look. Nirvana realm experts could use the mysterious fire to refine their physique, but fragmentation realm experts couldn't. They would be instantly burned by the mysterious fire. However, some mysterious fires had special effects. For example, the eternal earth core fire could prolong one's life as long as one cultivated beside it. Even the light of the fire could heal one's internal injuries. It was said that if a Nirvana realm expert merged with the eternal earth core fire, he could increase his lifespan by at least 50 years. If he took it out, he could even buy the entire Million Treasure City. Gosh, the treasure unearthed this time is probably the most precious one since the establishment of the Million Treasure Alliance. Don't say that. The more precious something is, the more troublesome it is. This isn't something we can get our hands on. Yes, even Nirvana realm experts would lower themselves to snatch it. An innocent man gets into trouble because of his wealth. If people know that there is such a treasure, they will definitely die without a burial place. Although they said so, they all had an urge in their hearts. Who didn't want to get such a treasure? Who didn't want to soar to the sky? Not to mention them, even Yi Xian was tempted. This thing, I must get it. Yi Xian opened his eyes wide and made a plan in his heart. However, to get the eternal earth core fire, he had to kill the geocentric flame demons and the flame demon overlord first. At this time, another group of people just happened to flash over from afar. It was the Million Treasure City team that had arrived late, and the person in the lead was also at the 7th level of the fragmentation realm. Eternal earth core fire? The middle-aged man leading the Million Treasure City team cried out in surprise. The Million Treasure City was a trading center, and there were all sorts of things inside. He, who often dealt with treasures, naturally recognized it with a single glance. The two of you, let's kill this fire devil overlord first. We'll talk about the spoils later. He was the 7th level of the fragmentation realm martial artist who had arrived first. Who are you? The leader of the treasure-seeking sect questioned. Northwest, Tuoba Yi of the Tuoba family. The green-clothed elder replied. Bei Lu belongs to the Million Treasure City's City Lord Manor. The middle-aged man also reported his background. Elder of the treasure-seeking sect, Feng Qi. The elder leading the treasure-seeking sect also introduced himself. There were two major powers in the Thousand Treasures Alliance's territory, the treasure-seeking sect and the Thousand Treasure City. In addition, there were some independent families. Coincidentally, the Tuoba family did not belong to the treasure-seeking sect, nor did they belong to the 10,000 Treasure City. If that was the case, they could only cooperate. Taking advantage of the fact that the Fire Devil Overlord had not completely climbed up, the three of them quickly discussed countermeasures. This Fire Devil Overlord's strength was not to be underestimated. Those who could harm it were at least at the 6th level of the Fragmentation Realm. At this moment, there were only a dozen 6th level Fragmentation Realm martial artists and 3 7th level Fragmentation Realm martial artists. As for the others, they were of no help at all. This Fire Devil Overlord is about to come out completely. Inform the others immediately. Feng Qi of the treasure-seeking sect shouted. This Fire Devil Overlord was not to be underestimated. Even if the three of them joined forces, they only had a 10 to 20% chance of defeating it. After all, there were so many geocentric flame demons around. The key was that they did not have anything specially used to collect exotic flames. If they put it into their interspatial rings, they were afraid that their interspatial rings and hands would be burned to ashes before they could enter. However, they had to deal with this Fire Devil Overlord first. Woo woo woo! Amidst a roar, the Fire Devil Overlord finally successfully climbed to the ground. When the three parties were discussing earlier, they were also cleaning up the geocentric flame demons. At this moment, there were only a little more than 200 geocentric flame demons left. Forget it. Let's go first. The others will clean up the geocentric flame demons. Feng Qi of the treasure-seeking sect began to attack as soon as he finished speaking. Although this Fire Devil Overlord looked very terrifying, there were still some people who did not care about their lives and joined forces to deal with the geocentric flame demons in an attempt to collect some geocentric cores. Xianxia was the same. This Fire Devil Overlord is stronger than the three of us. Even if the three of us join forces, we might not be able to fight it. I'd better clean up the geocentric flame demons first. Xianxia focused on the geocentric flame demons first. After all, the Fire Devil Overlord was not so easy to kill. Even if it was killed, someone else would get it. At that time, he would reap the benefits. It was indeed difficult for him to deal with a 7th level Fragmentation Realm martial artist now. However, after this battle, it would not be certain because someone might die. Killing intent explosion. Cyclone slash. Xianxia was also quickly cleaning up the geocentric flame demons. At the same time, he was the only one who dared to challenge a few geocentric flame demons alone. This Cyclone Slash was a middle-grade Fragmentation Realm martial artist that he copied from the people around him. This Cyclone Slash was similar to the scar-faced assassin's whirlwind clouds. After striking the geocentric flame demons, countless wind blades would be released. It was very effective against the geocentric flame demons. If they were to compare the number of kills, Xianxia's kill count was probably second only to that green-clothed old man, Tuoba Yi. Therefore, it was inevitable that he would be noticed by others. Where did this kid come from? He can actually kill a 5th-level geocentric flame demon so easily. He can even fight a 6th-level geocentric flame demon. The three Fragmentation Realm martial artists all noticed Xianxia. However, they did not have time to think because the geocentric flame demons had already arrived. Huff, huff, huff. The Fire Devil Overlord directly blasted towards the green-clothed old man, Tuoba Yi. If he was hit, Tuoba Yi would be severely injured even if he did not die. Fortunately, Tuoba Yi's strength was not bad and was not hit by this attack. On the other side, Treasure Hunting Sect's Elder Feng Qi and Million Treasure City's City Lord Residence's Bei Lu were attacking the Fire Devil Overlord from the back. Their attacks could injure the Fire Devil Overlord, but the Fire Devil Overlord had the eternal core fire in his body. His injuries were instantly healed. Not good. It is indeed like this. When Tuoba Yi and the other two saw this, their faces changed drastically. Chapter 1336. If the Fire Devil Monarch's injuries couldn't recover, they still had a chance. But if the Fire Devil Monarch's injuries were constantly recovering, then they wouldn't even have a 10% chance of winning. Hold him back and wait for reinforcements. Tuoba Yi yelled. This Fire Devil Monarch had a mysterious flame on him, so it was imaginable how precious it was. What they had to do now was to hold back the Fire Devil Monarch and prevent Lament from going back underground. But who knew when reinforcements would arrive? What if it was an hour or two? Wouldn't they be in trouble? We can't fight him head-on. Let's retreat. Feng Qi yelled and swiftly retreated with his men. So did Bei Lu from the Myriad Treasure City's City Lord estate. Now, it was Tuoba Yi challenging the Fire Devil Monarch alone. You two motherfasterisk curs. Tuoba Yi couldn't help cursing out loud. They had agreed to join forces earlier, but now, after seeing the Fire Devil Monarch's strength, they actually turned around and left. This way, he would become a thorn in the Fire Devil Monarch's side. Let's go! Tuoba Ye's expression changed as he immediately turned around and left. The surrounding 6th-level fragmentation realm martial artists also retreated when they saw the situation. Huff, huff, huff. The Fire Devil Monarch launched another attack, but this time, his target wasn't Tuoba Yi, but those 6th-level fragmentation realm martial artists. Bam! The Fire Devil Monarch blasted out a punch, and suddenly, a huge fireball smashed towards the 6th-level fragmentation realm martial artists. The latter couldn't dodge in time and was hit head-on. That extremely high temperature directly incinerated him, leaving behind only a hard universe ring and weapon. Instant kill. A 6th-level fragmentation realm martial artist was instantly killed. This greatly reduced the morale of the surrounding people. They all wanted to kill the Fire Devil Monarch, but they didn't have the strength. If this punch hit those 3 people, it would probably be able to instantly kill them. This Fire Devil Monarch's strength has already reached the 8th level of the fragmentation realm. Yi Xian gulped his saliva and then flung the Skyquake sword at the Fire Devil Monarch. Of course, he was not sending Wei Zhentian to his death. Instead, he was going to seize the universe ring of that 6th-level fragmentation realm martial artist. After all, Wei Zhentian was immortal. Even if he was killed by the Fire Devil Monarch, he could still be reborn. The heaven-shocking sword tore through the air and successfully obtained the universe ring. But on his way back, a 6th-level fragmentation realm geocentric flame demon suddenly appeared and smashed Wei Zhentian into pieces with a single punch. The universe ring also fell from the sky. However, this distance happened to be within the range of Yi Xian. Eyes of Myriad. Yi Xian's eyes flickered. He used his all-creations force to drag the ring of cosmos and then moved it towards him. Ding! Wei Zhentian has broken through. He is currently at the 6th stage of the fragmentation stage. A system notification sounded. At the same time, Yi Xian was also targeted by the 6th stage fragmentation stage geocentric flame devil. Killing intent explosion. Cyclone slash. Yi Xian took out his heaven-shocking sword again and slashed down. An ordinary slash pierced through the air and entered the geocentric flame devil's body. The geocentric flame devil's body began to dissipate. This was the effect of the sword energy erupting inside its body. Yi Xian only needed 2 or 3 slashes to deal with a 5th-level fragmentation realm geocentric flame devil. But against a 6th-level fragmentation realm geocentric flame devil, he would need at least 7 to 8 slashes. Fortunately, there were no other geocentric flame devils nearby. Yi Xian could fight this 6th-level fragmentation realm geocentric flame devil alone. Killing intent explosion. Cyclone slash. Yi Xian attacked as he retreated. Although he was in the air, he had the shadow of the Imperial Wind Dragon and the eyes of Myriad. His speed in the air was not much slower than a 6th-level fragmentation realm martial artist. These geocentric flame devils were very stupid and were quickly kite to death. Bang! The 6th-level fragmentation realm geocentric flame devil exploded and left behind a geocentric core. Yi Xian hurriedly put away this geocentric core and glanced at it. The Fire Devil Monarch was chasing after the group of humans. While he was killing monsters, another 2 6th-level fragmentation realm martial artists had died. In that case, the 2 interspatial rings would belong to him. However, the people around also had their eyes on these 2 universe rings. When Yi Xian used the eyes of Myriad to hook the 2 universe rings, an unfriendly shout suddenly came from not far away. Boy, get out of my way! Yi Xian turned around and saw a bald man flying towards him. From the looks of it, he wanted to snatch the 2 universe rings. You don't have the right to take what I want. Yi Xian did not say anything and directly pulled out his sword and slashed. Killing intent explosion. Unparalleled flame dragon slash. A golden flame dragon swept out. Cyclone slash. The other party also slashed with his sword. It turned out that this person was the one who Yi Xian had secretly learned the fragmentation divine power. Now, he was here to ask Yi Xian for a lesson. The cyclone slash sank into the golden flame dragon and immediately caused a violent explosion inside. Unfortunately, it was not able to disperse the golden flame dragon in one hit. Yi Xian's attack was slightly better. How is this possible? The bald man was shocked. He was at the 6th level of the fragmentation realm, and Yixian was only at the 4th level of the fragmentation realm. How could he lose in terms of attack power? He immediately slashed with his sword again. This time, he dispersed the golden flame dragon. However, after the golden flame dragon, there was another attack that he neglected. Eye of Destruction. Rip. The bald man's head was directly cut off and sent flying. The disintegration effect also disintegrated his chin. In the blink of an eye, only half of his head was left. Ding. Host's killing intent has increased. After Yixian heard the system notification, he used the power of all creations to drag the corpse over. This time, he obtained 3 6th-level fragmentation realm interspatial rings. What a profit! When Yixian put away the 3 interspatial rings, although he did not hear the system notification, his aura skyrocketed. It seems that I can break through to the 5th level of the fragmentation realm after another 2 rings. Yixian's eyes flickered as he secretly calculated in his heart. As long as he broke through to the 5th level of the fragmentation realm, he would be qualified to fight with the fire demon monarch. He would also be qualified to snatch the eternal earth core fire from the others. This eternal earth core fire can be used to refine Wei Zhentian, increase the growth rate of the old tree, and increase Mai and Lualua's lifespan. This is killing 4 birds with 1 stone. If I can devour it, it can even help me break through several times. Thinking of this, Yixian's figure flashed as he continued to kill the geocentric flame demons. At the same time, he was also paying attention to whether anyone else had fallen so that he could collect the corpses. Tuoba Yi, who was targeted by the fire demon monarch, had a decent movement technique and was able to avoid the fire demon monarch's attack. Other than some of his hair and clothes being burned by the scorching aura, he did not have any obvious injuries. However, at this moment... Woo. Chapter 1337. Tuoba Yi frowned. This was a good opportunity to attack, but the Fire Devil Sovereign had the eternal earth core fire. Hence, he felt that it was better to use this opportunity to distance himself from the Fire Devil Sovereign. What is the Fire Devil Sovereign doing? In the distance, Yixian used his Eye of Revelation and discovered that there were some changes in the Fire Devil Sovereign's body. The Fire Devil Sovereign originally had 1 core of the earth, but at this moment, the Fire Devil Sovereign suddenly condensed 3 cores of the earth. Bang! Suddenly, the Fire Devil Sovereign's body exploded. The 3 cores of the earth were ejected and fell into the magma. Soon after, 3 geocentric flame demons appeared. Although they were not as big as the Flame Demon Sovereign, they were still half as tall. Core flame demons at the 7th level of the fragmentation realm. After the Fire Devil Sovereign split into 3 core flame demons, his body had indeed shrunk a little. However, under the effect of the eternal earth core fire, his body began to recover bit by bit. This is troublesome. Seeing this, Yixian could not help but raise his eyebrows. Originally, only this Fire Devil Sovereign was a threat to him. Now that the Fire Devil Sovereign suddenly split into 3 core flame demons, it was even more troublesome to deal with. Most importantly, this Fire Devil Sovereign could still rely on the eternal earth core fire to recover. If he was given some time to recover to his peak, he might split again. It seemed like he had to get something to suppress the Fire Devil Sovereign's recovery. While Yixian was pondering, the 3 core flame demons had already rushed out and attacked the nearest target. 1 Fire Devil Sovereign was already frightening enough. Now that there were 3 core flame demons at the 7th level of the fragmentation realm, the others were scared witless and did not dare to turn around to leave. Yixian looked at the core flame demons and raised his eyebrows. Suddenly, he found something that could restrain them. Frozen Sky Pill. It allows the user to possess Ice attribute True Qi. It has a 50% restraining effect on Fire attribute. When he saw this, Yixian's eyes lit up. Although the effect of the Frozen Heaven Pill only lasted for an hour and could only be used once a day, it was enough. However, this Frozen Heaven Pill was also divided into levels. Yixian was currently at the 4th level of the fragmentation stage, and was about to break through to the 5th level of the fragmentation stage. Thus, he had to wait until he broke through to exchange for it. If he broke through while the effects were still in effect, then it would lose its effect. Before this, he had used the Super Devouring Crystal to exchange for an Ice Element Shattering Divine ability. Skyfrost Fist, a mid-tier fragmentation divine ability. Without hesitation, Yi Xian exchanged for it and started learning. Apart from that, he also exchanged for a pair of gloves, a high-grade level 4 elemental divine weapon. Now, everything was ready. All that was left was cultivation. Once he broke through to the 5th stage of the fragmentation realm, his damage to the geocentric flame devil would increase greatly. Right at this moment. Kid, hand over those interspatial rings. Suddenly, a low shout entered Yi Xian's ears. Without even turning his head, he knew that 2 martial practitioners at the 6th stage of the fragmentation realm were charging towards him. There's a path to heaven, but you chose to barge into hell instead. Perfect timing. The corners of Yi Xian's mouth curled up slightly as he turned around to attack. Killing intent explosion. Peerless flame dragon slash. Sky frost fist. A golden flame dragon and an extreme ice fist blasted towards the 2 martial practitioners at the 6th stage of the fragmentation realm respectively. These two had seen Yi Xian obtain 3 interspatial rings from afar, and then saw Yi Xian kill a martial practitioner at the 6th stage of the fragmentation realm, so they teamed up to snatch them. However, they did not know that they had kicked an iron plate. Bang! Bang! Both of them were unable to block the attack and were sent flying by Yi Xian. At the same time, Yi Xian added an eye of destruction behind the peerless flame dragon slash. Rip! Another head was thrown into the air. What? The other person was shocked. One of them was killed in just one move. How was this possible? However, in Yi Xian's eyes, he was also a dead man. Yi Xian turned into a stream of light and put away the corpse. After his aura skyrocketed, he rushed towards the other person. Killing intent explosion. Peerless flame dragon slash. Eye of destruction. Yi Xian did not need to use his left fist at all. The faint eye of destruction was enough to kill him. After the second person died, he rushed over again. In his estimation, he could break through to the 5th stage of the fragmentation realm as long as he devoured this interspatial ring. At this time, a geocentric flame demon at the 7th stage of the fragmentation realm suddenly rushed towards him. Humph! Yi Xian quickly put the interspatial ring into his bag. Ding! The host has broken through. The host is currently at the 5th stage of the fragmentation realm. The system notification finally sounded. After breaking through, Yi Xian's physique and true chi strength had a qualitative leap. However, he did not immediately exchange for the freezing sky pill. Instead, he broke through the void and left. Whoosh! The void door closed, and the geocentric flame demon at the 7th stage of the fragmentation realm missed. Yi Xian actually had the ability to kill it, but he did not want to do so now because there were others around. What he wanted now was to let the fire demon monarch and the other geocentric flame demons drive these humans away. When there was no one else, he would attack. 1-on-1. Yes. 1-on-1. 1-on-4. He had left an eye of the void somewhere else, so he did not go far. He hurried for a while and arrived at the previous place. At this time, there was no one there. He did not know if the remaining people were all dead or had escaped. With the Eye of Revelation, Yi Xian observed the fire demon monarch and the 3 4th stage geocentric flame demons from afar. Then, he circled around the 4 flame fiends, but did not find anyone else. Then it was time for him. Ding! Freezing sky pill successfully exchanged. The system notification sounded. The freezing sky pill at the 5th stage of the fragmentation realm cost him 4/5 of the super devouring crystal. However, as long as he could kill the 3 geocentric flame demons and the fire demon monarch, it was worth it. Eye of Glory close. Yi Xian closed the Eye of Glory and consumed the freezing sky pill. Instantly, the true chi in his body turned blue. Not only that, but his entire body also changed. Even his hair turned sky blue and was very dazzling. His body also emitted traces of cold air as if he had walked out of an ice field. Come! Yi Xian's eyes suddenly shot out a ray of light. However, he was not stupid enough to rush over. He still had to use some tricks. Wei Zhentian, go and lure one over. Chapter 1338. Wei Zhentian trembled in dissatisfaction. Yi Xian always used it as bait, which made it unhappy. Do you still want the core of the earth? Yi Xian narrowed his eyes and asked with a smile. Whoosh! Hearing about the core of the earth, Wei Zhentian flew toward the nearest geocentric flame demon without hesitation. Whoosh! 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 The geocentric flame demon at the 7th level of the fragmentation realm was successfully attracted. Then, Wei Zhentian quickly retreated. Boom! However, due to the difference in their realms, Wei Zhentian was instantly smashed into pieces by a flaming fist. Then, Wei Zhentian moved again and lured the geocentric flame demon at the 7th level of the fragmentation realm over. The effect of the frozen sky pill only lasted for an hour. In order to lure the geocentric flame demon at the 7th level of the fragmentation realm, Yi Xian spent a full 2 minutes. After 2 minutes, the geocentric flame demon at the 7th level of the fragmentation realm finally left. Yi Xian estimated that the battle here would not attract the attention of the flame demon monarch. Killing intent explosion. Sky Frost Fist. When the geocentric flame demon at the 7th level of the fragmentation realm approached, Yi Xian directly attacked. A blue fist shadow pierced through the air and ruthlessly smashed the geocentric flame demon at the 7th level of the fragmentation realm. Instantly, the extremely cold air invaded its body. Kacha! Kacha! With a few crisp sounds, the geocentric flame demon at the 7th level of the fragmentation realm was suddenly frozen into ice. However, the surrounding flames continued to burn, and the ice began to melt again. It's so powerful. Yi Xian narrowed his eyes. The frozen sky pill, Sky Frost Fist, and a divine artifact that increased the attack power of the ice attribute actually caused such damage in one punch. This was directly out of Yi Xian's expectations. He estimated that it would only take 3 punches to kill a 7th level geocentric flame demon. Killing intent explosion. Sky Frost Fist. Yi Xian attacked again. Whoosh! Whoosh! The fist shadow whizzed out and once again hit the geocentric flame demon at the 7th level of the fragmentation realm. Before the ice could melt, another large piece of ice was formed. The geocentric flame demon's flames were frozen, and even its movement speed decreased greatly. At this time, Yi Xian circulated his true qi once again and threw a punch. This punch accurately, this punch directly froze the geocentric flame demon. Following that, Yi Xian casually struck it and shattered it. The core of the earth also fell into Yi Xian's hands. In Yi Xian took flame demon at the 7th level. Was Yi Shui only? In Yi Xian only took a few seconds Yi. Was Yi Sky if it weren't for the fact that the Sky Frost Fist consumed a lot of energy and couldn't be used consecutively within a short period of time, he would have been able to insta-kill Wang Chong if he used both fists simultaneously. I didn't expect the frozen heaven pill to be so useful. It seems like I don't need to lure them one by one. Was Yi is Yi. Was Yi but Yi demon but it. However, this frozen sky pill only increased the power of flame demons by 50%. Without this effect it would not be so powerful. Yi Xian gathered his courage and rushed toward the flame demon monarch. Of course, before he fought with this flame demon monarch, he had to deal with the other 2 geocentric flame demons. Hey dummy, come and beat me! Yi Xian shouted at a geocentric flame demon at the 7th level of the fragmentation realm. Although this geocentric flame demon might not understand, Yi Xian's tone still made its hatred soar. Whoosh! Whoosh! This geocentric flame demon immediately turned around and charged toward Yi Xian. Yi Xian was not afraid of it. However, when this geocentric flame demon moved, the flame demon monarch suddenly turned around. F***CK. Yi Xian's body trembled as he jumped in fright. However, this flame demon monarch only glanced at him and turned around again. In this flame demon monarch's opinion, this 5th level fragmentation realm brat would definitely die at the hands of this geocentric flame demon, so it did not bother to attack. Not moving. Yi Xian scanned with his eye of revelation and found that this flame demon monarch was at the hole it came out from, absorbing the energy rising from the earth's core. It seemed to be recovering. I see. Splitting is different from being injured. After splitting, the eternal geocentric flame cannot recover. Yi Xian immediately understood. Previously, he saw the flame demon monarch grow stronger after splitting. In fact, the flame demon monarch was already injured. This meant that this flame demon monarch was weaker than before. This was a good sign for Yi Xian. Since this was the case, it was even easier to deal with. Although this flame demon monarch did not move, the other geocentric flame demon pounced. Yi Xian, 1 against 2. So what if it's 1 against 2? Sky Frost Fist. Without another word, Yi Xian raised his hand and punched. At the same time, he kept retreating, keeping a distance from these two 7th-level fragmentation realm geocentric flame demons. Kacha! 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 A series of crisp sounds rang out. After taking 3 punches, the geocentric flame demon in front was completely frozen. Then, it was pierced by Wei Zhentian, turning into countless ice crystals that fell to the ground. Whoosh whoosh. At this time, the second geocentric flame demon rushed forward and threw a flaming fist at Yi Xian. Killing intent explosion. Sky Frost Fist. Yi Xian threw a punch and collided with the flaming fist, freezing the fireball. Then, it was directly shattered by Yi Xian's 10,000 mammoth power. Soon, this third geocentric flame demon was also dealt with by Yi Xian. One had to admit that this geocentric flame demon had 0 intelligence. Like the Walking Dead, it only knew how to attack and did not know how to dodge. However, the same could not be said for the fire demon monarch. When Yi Xian swallowed the 2 geocentric cores, he heard a system notification. Ding! Wei Zhentian has broken through. Currently at the 6th level of the fragmentation realm. However, at this moment, Yi Xian's expression also darkened. This was because the fire demon monarch had its eyes on him. This fire demon monarch was different from the other geocentric flame demons. It had its own thoughts. Now that it saw its doppelganger killed by Yi Xian, it could not help but let out a roar. Then, it stopped absorbing the energy rising from the geocentric flame demon monarch and charged toward Yi Xian. There's still more than 50 minutes. I don't believe I can't kill you. Yi Xian's eyes shone brightly. He gathered his true qi and threw a punch. This fire demon monarch had its own thoughts. Therefore, unlike the other geocentric flame demons, it would only attack within its attack range and would not use its attacks to block its opponent's attacks. Whoosh whoosh. It also threw a punch. A fireball collided with the Sky Frost Fist. However, this time, Yi Xian was at a disadvantage. After all, this fire demon monarch was at the 8th level of the fragmentation realm. The fireball dispersed the Sky Frost Fist and then went straight for Yi Xian. Chapter 1339. This Flame Devil Emperor had split before. If it hadn't, it would be even more powerful. In just one exchange, Yi Xian felt a huge pressure. The Sky Frost Fist consumes too much true qi. I can't condense it quickly. It's a bit difficult to deal with this Flame Devil Emperor, Yi Xian thought to himself. He recalled Wei Zhentian and used it as a weapon. Killing intent explosion. Cyclone slash. The execution speed of this move was 3 times faster than the Sky Frost Fist. In other words, the time it took to use the Sky Frost Fist once was enough to use the Cyclone Slash 3 times. In the current situation, the Cyclone Slash was more useful than the Sky Frost Fist. In any case, the Frozen Sky Pills effect was to change true qi to the ice attribute. It wasn't mandatory to use it with the Sky Frost Fist. He had to be careful when fighting the 8th stage of the Fragmentation Realm Flame Devil Emperor. Although Yi Xian's speed in the sky was comparable to a 7th stage Fragmentation Realm martial artist, he could be consigned to eternal damnation if he wasn't careful. Therefore, he felt that it was necessary to leave this sea of lava. As long as he was on land, his movement speed would increase explosively. No. At this time, Yi Xian suddenly thought of something. There were other ways to use the power of all creations. Let's do it. Suddenly, Yi Xian directly used the power of all creations to mobilize the earth element in the heaven and earth origin qi. He began to condense a large bridge in the air. This bridge surrounded the Flame Devil Sovereign, and Yi Xian just happened to be able to move on it. Unfortunately, the Flame Devil Emperor seemed to have seen through Yi Xian's intentions. Its body suddenly exploded, instantly turning the floating bridge he had painstakingly created into ash. Helpless, Yi Xian could only use the shadow of the Imperial Wind Dragon to dodge the Flame Devil Emperor's fireballs and then use the Cyclone Slash to attack the Flame Devil Emperor. Whoosh! 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 The Cyclone Slashes entered the Flame Devil Emperor's body one after another. Although the ice attribute True Qi caused damage to the Flame Devil Emperor, the Flame Devil Emperor had the Eternal Earth Core Fire, which could instantly heal the damage. What a tragedy! If I don't use Sky Frost Fist, the damage I receive will never exceed my recovery speed. Yi Xian was somewhat hesitant. After all, he was only one person. But now, Lua Lua was in seclusion in the planting space. The old tree was restrained by flames. Although he had Megatron, it didn't have much effect. After an hour, He might not be able to kill this flame devil sovereign. Looks like I have no choice but to lure this flame devil overlord onto the ground and finish it off with the sky frost fist. Yi Xian made a plan in his mind. He only hoped that no one would disturb him during this hour. Otherwise it would be troublesome. It can be exchanged for a low-grade heavenly flame lantern. The heavenly flame lantern can be used to collect heavenly flames that are ranked lower than 80. This eternal earth core flame is ranked 93rd on the heavenly flame ranking, so it should be enough to collect it. Even if someone else came and killed this flame devil sovereign, they probably wouldn't be able to obtain the eternal earth core flame. Yi Xian thought as he attracted the flame devil sovereign's attention. Although he was the only living person here, he still had to plan first. He couldn't wait for others to arrive. However, what he was worried about came as soon as he thought about it. Two figures had already swept over from the horizon. Their speed had already surpassed Yi Xian's. 8th level of the fragmentation realm? Yi Xian's figure trembled as he cursed in his heart. What he was afraid of really happened. He was just wondering if there would be 8th level fragmentation realm experts coming to snatch the flame devil sovereign. Now they really did come. Moreover, there were two of them. Two 8th level fragmentation realm experts. They seemed to be from Million Treasure City. Yi Xian glanced over. There were two major forces in the Million Treasure Alliance. One was Million Treasure City, and the other was called Treasure Seeking Sect. It was said that these two forces each had a 9th level fragmentation realm expert. And 8th level fragmentation realm experts were almost the top existences in these two forces. Yi Xian didn't expect them to come so quickly. These two white-haired old men looked somewhat similar. They seemed to be brothers. They were the two ancestors of Million Treasure City's Bei family, Bei Xing and Bei Chong. Big brother, it seems like someone is fighting with the flame devil sovereign. Bei Chong looked into the distance and said in surprise. Could it be that the people from Treasure Seeking Sect arrived first? Bei Xing frowned. It can't be. This place is closer to our Million Treasure City. We immediately rushed over after receiving the report. Bei Chong said in disbelief. Let's go take a look first. No matter what, we must get this eternal earth core fire, Bei Xing said in a low voice. Yes, Father has been stuck at the 9th level of the fragmentation realm for 20 years. Now that his end is near, if he can successfully merge with this eternal earth core fire and break through to the Nirvana realm, he can at least live for another 100 years. At that time, our Bei family will be even more powerful. As the two brothers talked, they got closer to the flame devil sovereign. At the same time, they also saw the person fighting with the flame devil sovereign. When they felt the person's aura, their expressions changed simultaneously in disbelief. This person who was fighting with the 8th level fragmentation realm flame devil sovereign was actually only at the 5th level of the fragmentation realm. How could it be? In order to not expose his identity, he also used an appearance-changing mask to disguise himself as someone else. He glanced at the two and said in a hoarse voice, "What's the matter? What's the matter?" After hearing this, Bei Xing and Bei Chong were a little surprised. "Sir, it seems a little difficult for you to fight this flame devil sovereign alone," Bei Chong said with narrowed eyes. "So what?" Yi Xian asked in return. "We're Bei Chong and Bei Lu from Million Treasure City. If you join forces with us and take down this flame devil sovereign, you'll be rewarded," Bei Chong said. "Rewarded? How much?" Yi Xian narrowed his eyes. Hearing this, Bei Chong and Bei Xing looked at each other. They wondered if Yi Xian knew about the eternal earth core fire. However, if he didn't know, why did he fight with the flame devil sovereign? Couldn't he just turn around and leave? Could it be because of the core of the earth that was at the 8th level of the fragmentation realm? "Sir, this flame devil sovereign appeared in our Million Treasure City territory, so we have the obligation to destroy it. If you can help us kill it, its core of the earth's core will be yours," Bei Xing said. Core of the earth? Yi Xian narrowed his eyes and thought for a moment in his heart. It seemed that the two of them thought he didn't know about the eternal earth core fire. He was hesitating whether to scold them back. If he told them that he already knew about the eternal earth core fire, they might be on guard. After thinking about it, he decided not to expose himself. "The core will be mine, but it can only be obtained after killing the flame devil sovereign. I'm now risking my life to hold it back. Shouldn't the two of you do something?" When the two of them heard Yi Xian's words, their eyes lit up. Chapter 1340. Big Brother. This kid actually managed to hold back the Fire Devil Monarch. His strength is not to be underestimated. He might be a disciple of some major faction. Bei Chong reminded. Bei Xing naturally knew what Bei Chong meant. The former wanted to give more to Yi Xian to get closer to him. Sir, here are 50,000 medium-grade fragmentation pills. Take them as your reward. Bei Xing suddenly took out a big bag from his interspatial ring and sent it over with his all-creations force. 50,000 medium-grade fragmentation pills? Yi Xian raised his eyebrows. 50,000 medium-grade fragmentation pills were equivalent to 5 million low-grade fragmentation pills. This was enough for a person to break through to the 7th level. However, this was not enough for Yi Xian to break through to the 6th level of the fragmentation realm. Not enough. Give me 50,000 more. Yi Xian immediately demanded an exorbitant price. What? The two brothers suspected that they had misheard. 5 million fragmentation pills for Yi Xian. And Yi Xian actually made a counteroffer. Was he not too greedy? Even 500 million fragmentation pills can't buy the eternal earth core fire. It's worth a mere 5 million fragmentation pills. Thinking of this, Bei Xing made up his mind and threw out another 50,000 mid-grade fragmentation pills. 100,000 medium-grade fragmentation pills were equivalent to 10 million low-grade fragmentation pills. These 10 million shattering pills, as the reward for Yi Xian's help, were enough to show the sincerity of these two people. However, these shattering pills paled in comparison to the heavenly flame. Even the 1,000 Beast Fire, which was ranked 100th on the exotic fire list, was worth more than 500 million fragmentation pills. Even the combined wealth of Million Treasure City and Treasure-Seeking Sect would not be able to afford the 1,000 Beast Fire, let alone the Eternal Earth Core Fire that was ranked 93rd. All right, deal. Yi Xian smirked. These 10 million fragmentation pills were enough for him to break through to the 6th level of the fragmentation realm. As long as he broke through, he would be able to kill the Fire Devil Monarch alone. At that time, even if Bei Xing and Bei Chong obtained the Eternal Earth Core Fire, he would be qualified to snatch it away. After Yi Xian obtained the 2 bags of fragmentation pills, he immediately swallowed them and instantly reached the peak of the 5th stage of the fragmentation realm. His strength skyrocketed. However, before the Flame Devil Monarch fell, he did not want to break through to the 6th level of the fragmentation realm. After sensing the change in Yi Xian's aura, Bei Xing and Bei Chong shuddered. They couldn't help but exclaim in their hearts, "What a guy! He was actually hiding his strength." Yi Xian had swallowed a large amount of shattering pills to increase his cultivation. They thought that he was hiding his true strength, but now he had revealed it. "I've used up quite a bit of my Zhen Qi. Each of you can help me stall for time," Yi Xian said to the two brothers. "This will weaken the attack." Bei Chong said with a frown. "That's fine too. I'll continue to hold them off. You guys finish them off quickly." After some thought, Yi Xian decided not to reveal his combat strength. His mission was to avoid the attacks. The two brothers immediately joined the battle. The Eternal Earth Core Fire was a good thing. Even a Nirvana Realm powerhouse would not be able to resist fighting for it, let alone them. The two brothers also knew that they had to use water or ice attribute divine powers to deal with it. Coincidentally, they both knew a water pillar divine power that could be used to deal with the Flame Devil Monarch. Water Pillar. Water Pillar. After the two brothers joined the battle, they directly attacked. Although the Water Pillar divine powers were only inferior to the Fragmentation divine powers, they were able to cause considerable damage to the Flame Devil Monarch because of their high cultivation level. Every time, the flowing water pillar condensed from the All Creation's divine powers could effectively deal a heavy blow to the Flame Devil Monarch. In just a short period of time, the Flame Devil Monarch's flames had weakened by a lot. "Second brother, let's end this quickly," Bei Xing reminded him. They had made use of the geographical advantage to come here first. As long as they killed the Flame Devil Monarch, they could leave with the Eternal Earth Core Fire. However, if they did not finish off the Flame Devil Monarch before the treasure-seeking sex experts arrived, they would most likely have to fight with the treasure-seeking sex experts. Therefore, they had to end the battle quickly. Understood. Bei Chong nodded. He was not stingy with his true qi as he madly attacked. One after another, the water pillars bombarded the Flame Devil Monarch, causing it great pain. After 2 rounds of attacks, the hatred of the two brothers was higher than that of Yi Xian. "Not good, it has its eyes on me." Bei Chang's expression changed as he became extremely alert when he saw the Flame Devil Monarch turn around. He had become the opponent's target. Seeing this, Yi Xian also heaved a sigh of relief. It seemed that he did not need to be on tenterhooks to avoid the attacks anymore. Bei Chang was too arrogant and attracted the Flame Devil Monarch's attention. This matter could not be blamed on him. Cyclone Slash. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Yi Xian also quickly attacked. He did not want to kill the Flame Devil Monarch before the treasure-seeking sex team arrived. If that happened, his chances of obtaining the Eternal Earth Core Fire would be lower. The Flame Devil Monarch had the Eternal Earth Core Fire in its body, so its injuries would heal quickly. However, under the attacks of the three, it was unable to make up for the losses. In less than 5 seconds, the Flame Devil Monarch's body shrunk to a height of more than 30 meters. Yi Xian estimated that in another 5 seconds, the Flame Devil Monarch would be killed. If the Flame Devil Monarch did not split, it could be considered to have reached the 8th stage of the fragmentation realm. However, it had split, so its strength was weakened by at least 20%. As a result, it was now in danger. Bei Xing and Bei Chang saw that the Flame Devil Monarch was weakened and immediately attacked with all their might. 3 seconds later, the Flame Devil Monarch was only 20 meters tall. At this moment, its attack strength was about the same as Yi Xian's Cyclone Slash. It's about time. Yi Xian narrowed his eyes and quietly approached the Flame Devil Monarch. The two brothers did the same. When the Flame Devil Monarch died, they wanted to snatch the Eternal Earth Core Fire with the power of all creations immediately. At that time, they would directly drag the Eternal Earth Core Fire back to Million Treasure City. However, they definitely did not expect that Yi Xian already knew about the Eternal Earth Core Fire. At this moment, Yi Xian used the Eye of Revelation and discovered that some people came over. They were the 3 7th-stage fragmentation realm martial artists who escaped earlier. Not good. That's Feng Qi from the treasure-seeking sect. Let's end this quickly. Bei Xing said with a guilty conscience. Although their cultivation bases were higher than Feng Qi's, Feng Qi had most likely informed the treasure-seeking sect's experts. At that time, Feng Qi could directly inform the treasure-seeking sect's experts of their direction, and they would be easily caught. Big brother, I'll go deal with them, Bei Chang said in a low voice. He meant to kill Feng Qi and to obey Yi. Chapter 1341. Don't bother about them. Attack with all your might and leave immediately. Bei Xing replied. Right now, the Fire Devil Overlord was about to be defeated by them. This wasn't surprising at all. They would kill the Fire Devil Overlord first before dealing with Feng Qi and Tuoba Yi. Water Elemental Pillar. Water Elemental Pillar. The two brothers continued to attack. Finally, the Fire Devil Overlord was on the verge of death and let out a mournful howl. Woo-woo. Right at this moment, a blue fist shadow suddenly blasted on the Fire Devil Overlord. The Fire Devil Overlord's body crumbled from this attack and exploded. What? Quickly dodge. Bei Xing was startled. Who was the one who threw out the last punch? The attack power wasn't any weaker than them? However, they didn't have time to care so much as they frantically dodged the exploding flames. Relying on the Eye of Revelation, Yi Xian locked onto the Eternal Earth Core Fire's position. At the same time, he used his manifestation force to wrap around the Eternal Earth Core Fire. However, what shocked him was that the Eternal Earth Core Fire actually burned away his 10,000 mammoth force. Once the Fire Devil Overlord died, the Eternal Earth Core Fire wouldn't float and naturally fell straight down. Not good. Yi Xian's expression changed as he hurriedly turned into a stream of light and rushed over. Those flames along the way were ignored by him and some even penetrated his body. These injuries were just child's play to him. He just needed to protect his eyes. My cultivation realm is too low. This mysterious flame even burned away my manifestation force. Fortunately, Yi Xian heaved a sigh of relief. The orange Eternal Earth Core Fire was right in front of him. The closer he got to the Eternal Earth Core Fire, the higher the temperature. Yi Xian was still 1,000 meters away from the Eternal Earth Core Fire, but he could already feel his skin melting. Yi Xian withstood the high temperature and took out a simple lantern from the devouring space. This was the low-grade mysterious flame lantern that he exchanged for. It was able to absorb mysterious flames that were ranked 80 and below. Absorb for me. Yi Xian threw the mysterious flame lantern in his hand and used his manifestation force to send it over. Following which, The eternal earth core fire flew over like a magnet and was absorbed by the mysterious flame lantern. Success! Upon seeing this, Yi Xian's eyes widened. His entire body seemed to be glowing and full of vigor. At this moment, the two brothers from Million Treasure City also discovered Yi Xian. They would never have thought that what Yi Xian had obtained was not the core of the Flame Devil Sovereign, but the eternal earth core fire. This brat knew about the eternal earth core flame from the very beginning. Bei Xing and Bei Chong reacted immediately, but they didn't have time to think too much. They immediately attacked. Xiao! Xiao! The two sword rays slashed out at the same time, attacking Yi Xian. Haha, goodbye! Yi Xian laughed and kept the strange flame lantern into the devouring space. Then, his eyes flashed and he entered the void gate. Huff huff! Two streaks of sword radiance pierced through the air, but the void gate had already closed, and the building was empty. The two brothers were stunned. No matter how they thought about it, they never expected such an ending. Not only did Yi Xian know about the eternal earth core fire, but he also hid his strength. His true strength was actually at the 6th level of the fragmentation realm. Even the two of them, who were at the 8th level of the fragmentation realm, couldn't sense it. Most importantly, Yi Xian actually used the strange flame lantern. Even Million Treasure City didn't have such a thing. Damn it! Find it! We must find it! Bei Xing reacted and cursed angrily. The eternal earth core fire was extremely precious. Even Nirvana realm experts would fight for it. It was also their father's hope of breaking through to the Nirvana realm. Now, the eternal earth core fire was taken away right under their noses. The two of them were so angry that they wanted to massacre a city to vent their anger. Just as Bei Xing and Bei Chong were enraged, Yi Xian had already broken through the void and left Million Treasure Alliance's territory. At this moment, he was near the Hu clan. Haha, the eternal earth core fire, ranked 93rd on the strange flame list. In a mountain range, Yi Xian was holding the strange flame lantern that contained the eternal earth core fire. He couldn't help but laugh. Beside him were two figures. Heavens, this old man can actually see a strange flame in this life. I can die without regrets. The old tree was extremely surprised. Old tree, is the eternal earth core fire useful to you? Yi Xian asked while holding the strange flame lantern. Yes, the eternal earth core fire was formed underground. Even its light is useful to me. The old tree nodded. The eternal earth core fire was a very practical strange flame. Its light could temper one's physique and promote the growth of plants. It could even be used to forge weapons. There were many other effects. Yi Xian was really lucky to be able to obtain the eternal earth core fire this time. Alright, I'll half open the strange flame lantern first to test its effect. Yi Xian nodded and said. He gently touched the strange flame lantern. Then, the entire lantern suddenly opened and the flame spread out. However, the current flame was probably only 1/10 of the previous flame. This was because Yi Xian had only opened 1/10 of the strange flame lantern. The remaining 90% of the flame was blocked by a thin layer of cloth outside the strange flame lantern. Oh, this is the eternal earth core fire. It's so comfortable. This old man feels like he's going to heaven. Old tree couldn't help but sigh. At the same time, he felt that the blood in his body that had yet to be refined was starting to be absorbed faster. Not only that, Yi Xian also felt that his body was undergoing some changes. The strange flame's light could temper one's physique and heal some hidden injuries. However, Yi Xian originally had the divine tree of life's bloodline. Naturally, he wouldn't have any hidden injuries. At the same time, he saw that his lifespan was slowly increasing on the panel. If he stayed beside the strange flame all the time, his lifespan would increase instead of decreasing. After all, this flame was only 1/10 of the original flame. Of course, the strange flame's effect would become weaker as time passed. With my current physique, I can't even get close to the eternal earth core fire, let alone fuse with it. I heard that if someone was able to fuse with the eternal earth core fire, their lifespan would increase by at least 50 years. Yi Xian thought in his heart. When he first obtained the eternal earth core fire, he tried to devour it using a special method. However, it was notified that, unable to devour. Even normal devouring wouldn't work, so he gave up. Old tree, I'll leave the eternal earth core fire to you first. I'll keep it in the planting space. When my physique reaches a certain level, I'll slowly open it. Yi Xian said to Old Tree. No problem. This old man will take good care of it. Old Tree nodded. Then, Yi Xian threw the strange flame lantern into the planting space. He also kept the old tree and Megatron inside. Chapter 1342. Now, Bei Xing and Bei Chong are probably looking for me everywhere. I have to change my appearance and go to Wanbao City to investigate. Yi Xian narrowed his eyes, and his expression changed again. He was too happy to obtain the eternal Earth Core fire. At the same time, he wanted to avoid any accidents, so he left immediately. Otherwise, he would have fought with Bei Xing and Bei Chong. However, before he left, he used his mind's eye to control Bei Lu, who was watching the battle from afar. Bei Lu is at the 7th level of the fragmentation realm, and his surname is Bei. He probably has some influence in the Bei family. It shouldn't be a problem to ask him about the mysterious underworld duo demons. Yi Xian thought to himself and continued on his way. When he entered Wanbao Alliance, he was only at the 3rd level of the fragmentation realm. Now that he was at the 6th level of the fragmentation realm, he estimated that he could reach Wanbao City in 2 hours at most if he used shadow steps. After obtaining the Eternal Earth Core fire, he had heard 2 system notifications in the past 2 hours. Ding! Luo Luo has broken through. She is currently at the 5th level of the fragmentation realm. Ding! Devil Tree Battle Soldier has broken through. She is currently at the 5th level of the fragmentation realm. Luo Luo had already broken through to the 4th level of the fragmentation realm when she mutated. She was at the peak of the 4th level of the fragmentation realm. She went into seclusion to break through to the 5th level of the fragmentation realm. After the old tree obtained the Eternal Earth Core fire, the speed at which it refined Yi Xian's blood increased by several times. It was normal for it to break through. As for Wei Zhentian, it was constantly being tempered by the Eternal Earth Core fire. Although it was still at the 6th level of the fragmentation realm, it was tougher than before. With Yi Xian's strength, he didn't need to take a detour. After entering Wanbao Alliance, he headed straight for Wanbao City. During this time, he didn't encounter the 2 patriarchs of Wanbao City's City Lord Mansion. However, he hoped to meet them again because with his strength, he didn't need to be afraid of them. 2 hours later, Yi Xian successfully arrived at Wanbao City. Previously, when he had entered the Void Gate, he had taken control of North Flow and given him orders through space. Yi Xian stopped in his tracks. He saw that Bei Lu was already waiting in front of Wanbao City's city gate. Immediately, North Flow flew over at high speed. Greetings, Master. North Flow said respectfully. What's your relationship with those 2 8th stage fragmentation realm martial artists? Yi Xian went straight to the point. Of the 2 people just now, one is my grandfather, the other is my eldest grandfather. Bei Lu answered directly. Grandfather, first grandfather? Upon hearing this, Yi Xian instantly understood. Bei Lu was Bei Chang's grandson, while Bei Xing was Bei Chang's eldest brother. Thus, he was Bei Lu's eldest grandfather. All right, then let me ask you, where are they now? Yi Xian continued to ask. Just now, after Master left, the treasure-seeking sex team arrived. Right now, they're searching that area. They asked me to come back and report to them. At the same time, they're also looking for Master. Bei Lu replied. The Eternal Earth Core fire had already been collected by him. Now that he had changed his appearance, the other party would definitely not expect him to come to the Million Treasure City. Since that was the case, it was time to get down to business. Then let me ask you again. Have you seen this Fox Clansman? He's around the 4th stage of the fragmentation realm. Yi Xian took out a portrait. It was Hu Lai's father, Hu Tai. No, I haven't. Bei Lu shook his head. What about them? Yi Xian took out another 2 portraits. They were the siblings, Nailan Bing and Nailan Jia. This time, Bei Lu nodded and said, These 2 appeared in my city lord's mansion before. I don't know if they're still there now. Upon hearing this, Yi Xian could not help but raise his eyebrows. If the Xian Ming duo demons were still in the city lord's mansion, that would be great. He could finally fulfill his promise to Mo Shui. All right, bring me to the city lord's mansion, Yi Xian said after he took out the items in Bei Lu's interspatial ring. Yes. Bei Lu nodded and immediately brought Yi Xian into the Million Treasure City. Along the way, Yi Xian asked Bei Lu about the city lord's mansion, such as how many experts were in the city lord's mansion. There's another 9th stage fragmentation realm expert. After hearing this, Yi Xian could not help but narrow his eyes. With his current realm, he did not need to be afraid of 9th stage fragmentation realm experts. If he could not beat them, he could still run away. As long as he broke through again, killing 9th stage fragmentation realm experts would be a piece of cake. Soon, Bei Lu brought Yi Xian to the city lord's mansion. The city lord of Million Treasure City was Bei Lu's cousin, who was also at the 7th stage of the fragmentation realm. Before Yi Xian entered the city lord's mansion, he felt waves of powerful auras. That's strange. There's only one 8th stage fragmentation realm expert in the city lord's mansion. Where's your 9th stage fragmentation realm ancestor? Yi Xian asked in surprise. The ancestor should know about the eternal earth core fire. Maybe he went out to search for it. Bei Lu replied. Hearing this, Yi Xian nodded slightly. That's right. This time, the eternal earth core fire appeared. It was normal for him to go out personally. However, the most important thing was that Yi Xian did not find Nalan Bing and Nalan Jie's auras. That's strange. Are they not in the city lord's mansion and have already left? Yi Xian asked around. Master, I'll ask my third grandfather. Bei Lu said. The third grandfather he mentioned was the city lord of Million Treasure City, Bei Feng's grandfather. He was also the only 8th stage fragmentation realm expert in the Bei family. Go! Yi Xian nodded. After Bei Lu left, he strolled around the city lord's mansion alone. Although he said that he was strolling, there were still a few 7th stage fragmentation realm experts in the city lord's mansion. He was going to make some extra money. Almost all the experts in the city lord's mansion had been sent out to search. There were less than 1/5 of the experts in the city lord's mansion. Yi Xian only controlled 3 7th stage fragmentation realm experts. Then, he returned to Bei Lu's residence. Master, my third grandfather said that the ancestor personally escorted the 2 people away. Bei Lu said. Ancestor? Yi Xian raised his eyebrows. There were few ancestors in the Bei family, but the most senior was the first city lord of Million Treasure City, Bei Yang. Bei Yang was at the 9th stage of the fragmentation realm. He was the father of Bei Xing, Bei Chong, and Bei Lu's third grandfather. That's strange. Tomorrow is great-grandfather's death anniversary. Why would he leave? Bei Lu said in astonishment. He did not know about the Xianming duo demons, so it was understandable. Then, he suddenly took out a piece of paper from his universe ring and handed it to Yi Xian. He said, Third grandfather gave this to me. According to my great-grandfather, it was left behind by an expert, but no one in the Bei family noticed anything. A piece of paper? Yi Xian took the piece of paper and looked at it. He did not find anything, but he scanned it with his eye of revelation and found a trace of strange energy left on it. This energy was not true qi. Chapter 1343. A will of charm was left on this piece of paper. Luo Luo exclaimed in shock after seeing this. Will of charm. Yi Xian's heart trembled when he heard this. He had heard of the will of death and will of reincarnation, and now there was the will of charm. The will of charm is a very clever way to use the eye of charm. After the user leaves a trace of the will of charm on this piece of paper, if someone sees this piece of paper, they will complete a certain mission. Luo Luo replied. After seeing it, they will complete a mission. Is this another type of charm? Yi Xian asked with a frown. Yes, but it's only effective once. Luo Luo nodded and replied, I reckon that a Fox Clan expert issued these pieces of paper with the will of charm, and then began to escort the Xianming duo to the higher-ups. I see. This Fox Clan expert should be related to the Xianming duo in their past life. But why didn't he come personally? How did this piece of paper appear? Yi Xian asked curiously. Maybe it's because the Xianming duo had too many enemies in their past life. If they were discovered, they would die, so this Fox Clan expert couldn't appear. As for these pieces of paper, I don't know. After all, the opponent is a rebirth realm expert. There are many methods that we can't understand. My inherited memories haven't been fully unlocked yet, Luo Luo said helplessly. Yi Xian fell silent after hearing this. He reckoned that this Fox Clan expert had some sort of connection with the underworld. Since the Xianming duo left first, he naturally had to continue chasing after them. However, before that, he had to find out where the Bei clan's ancestor, Bei Yang, went. Third grandfather didn't tell me where my great-grandfather went. Right now, he's personally cleaning my great-grandfather's tomb, Bei Lu said. Bring me there, Yi Xian said with a serious expression. Bei Lu's third grandfather was an expert at the 8th level of the fragmentation realm. However, as long as Bei Lu launched a sneak attack, Yi Xian would be able to control him. At that time, Yi Xian would know where the Bei clan's ancestor, Bei Yang, had sent the mysterious underworld twin fiends. After that, Bei Lu brought Yi Xian to his great-grandfather's tomb. This tomb was under the city lord's manor of Million Treasure City. However, only members of the Bei family could enter the tomb. Yi Xian followed Bei Lu into the tomb. This tomb was very big, because there was not only one person buried here, but all the Bei family members who had died in battle were buried here. Bei Lu led Yi Xian deeper into the tomb and finally arrived in front of a large tomb. Third grandfather, Bei Lu shouted respectfully. Why are you here again? Don't you know I'm busy? An old voice came from inside. Third grandpa, I have something important to report, Bei Lu shouted. As soon as he said that, the door to the tomb opened with a bang. Bei Lu led Yi Xian into the tomb. There was only a gray-robed old man in the tomb. He was sweeping the floor with a broom. He was Bei Lu's third grandfather, Bei Shang. Although Bei Shang could use his all-creation strength to clean the tomb, he wanted to remember his mother, so he cleaned it himself. When he saw Yi Xian behind Bei Lu, he was furious and said, "You brat, why did you bring an outsider into the tomb? Have you forgotten the ancestral rules set by your great-grandfather? Only members of the Bei family could enter this tomb. Outsiders were not allowed." For so many years, no one had broken the rule. Today, Bei Lu actually brought an outsider in. What was he doing? Third grandfather, please calm down. Bei Lu took a big stride forward and whispered a few words in Bei Shang's ear. Bei Shang's expression changed immediately. He cried out in surprise. What? News of the eternal earth core fire? Yes. Third grandfather. He knows the location of the eternal earth core fire. Bei Lu nodded. Ta-ta-ta. Bei Shang turned into a gust of wind and arrived in front of Yi Xian in an instant. He said, "Do you really know the location of the eternal earth core fire?" Just now, he wanted to kill Yi Xian, but when he heard that Yi Xian knew the location of the eternal earth core fire, he immediately changed his attitude. It was obvious that the eternal earth core fire was more important at this moment. After all, rules were set by humans. It was not a big deal to break them occasionally. Yes, I know. Yi Xian nodded and said solemnly. Where is the eternal earth core fire? As long as you tell me, I'll reward you handsomely. Bei Shang said excitedly. Not to mention that the eternal earth core fire could be used for Bei Yang's breakthrough. They could also use it to increase their lifespan. Naturally, he wanted to obtain it. Yi Xian glanced at Bei Lu and then took out something from the devouring space. This was the unusual flame lantern. The eternal earth core fire that you're looking for is here, Yi Xian said slowly. What? Bei Shang was shocked. He could feel the vitality of the flame and was completely speechless. The Bei family had sent out hundreds of experts to search, including 2 LV8 experts of the fragmentation realm. However, what they were looking for was right in front of Bei Shang at this moment. However, just as Bei Shang was shocked, Yi Xian and Bei Lu attacked at the same time. Eye of Glory. Sky Frost Fist. Yi Xian's hair suddenly turned golden. He directly punched Bei Shang's abdomen. Instantly, the extremely cold air froze Bei Shang's abdomen. Furthermore, the back of Bei Shang's head was also hit by Bei Lu. He almost fainted. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Yi Xian hurriedly used his Eye of the Heart. Ding! Control failed. A system notification sounded. If he was from the Fox clan, Yi Xian would definitely not be able to control him. However, Bei Shang was only a human who had lived for hundreds of years. Ding! Control succeeded. The Eye of the Heart specialized in attacking the flaws in one's soul. Coupled with the fact that Bei Shang was ambushed and was too shocked, he was subdued by Yi Xian in just 2 tries. After controlling him, Yi Xian directly threw a blood bottle over and asked at the same time, "Where did your father Bei Yang bring those 2 people to?" "I'm not sure. My father didn't say. I only know that he went to the north." Bei Shang shook his head. "You're not sure?" Yi Xian wanted to faint. It wasn't easy for him to find this place. Was he going to lose track of the mysterious underworld duo again? Give me the most complete map you have. Yi Xian said to Bei Sheng. Yes. Bei Sheng didn't say anything else and took out the map. Yi Xian glanced at it and copied the map into his mind. There were indeed a few big forces in the north of the 10,000 Treasures Alliance. He didn't know where the ancestor of the Bei family, Bei Yang, went. All right, let's not talk about this for now. Yi Xian withdrew his thoughts and said, Where's the Bei family's treasury? Chapter 1344. Bei Sheng naturally understood what Yi Xian meant and said, This. My Bei family just bought a large number of heavenly and earthly treasures a while ago for the Bei family's disciples and consecrators to cultivate. Furthermore, the real things are all with my 2 brothers and father. Yi Xian raised an eyebrow when he heard this. Bei Sheng was only a manager of the clan, and he had just broken through to the 8th tier of the fragmentation realm. Meanwhile, his older brothers, Bei Xing and Bei Chong, were the pillars of the clan. In other words, they were the people who were overseeing the clan. As such, they had to ensure their strength. Naturally, they would need a large amount of natural treasures. Then your father is in seclusion all year round? Yi Xian asked again. Yes. Apart from seclusion, my father would come to my mother's tomb to sit. It's the one inside. No one is allowed to enter except for my father. Bei Sheng nodded. Is that so? Yi Xian's eyes lit up. The one inside should be the tomb where Bei Sheng's mother's body was kept. However, there was something fishy about Bei Yang not allowing anyone to enter. Don't come in. I'll go in and take a look. Yi Xian said and walked in. Bei Sheng and Bei Lu were waiting outside. Bam! The stone door closed, and Yi Xian entered the last secret chamber of the Bei family. Yi Xian raised an eyebrow. There were not many things in this secret chamber. There was a coffin in the innermost part, and there were many portraits of the tomb's owner hanging around it. There were also some books. Why are there books? Yi Xian walked over in surprise and glanced around. He was shocked by what he saw. Bei Yang and his wife are actually a pair of siblings? Yi Xian widened his eyes in disbelief. Was the world in chaos? The Xianming duo were also siblings, both in his previous life and current life. Bei Yang and his wife, Bei Lin, were also siblings. They were married and had 3 children. However, what shocked Yi Xian even more was what happened next. Bei Yang, an outer disciple of the Yin-Yang Temple. Bei Lin, an outer disciple of the Yin-Yang Temple. Seeing this, Yi Xian was suddenly stunned. He had finally found a clue about the Yin-Yang Sacred Hall that he had been searching for. Bei Yang and his wife, Bei Lin, had become outer sect disciples of the Yin-Yang Sacred Hall 100 years ago due to their good aptitude. Furthermore, they had also successfully cultivated the Saint Yin-Yang chant and merged into one. They were only 16 years old at the time. However, the 2 siblings violated the taboo of the Yin-Yang Saint technique, so they suddenly disintegrated and were chased out of the Yin-Yang Saint Palace. And the reason for their disintegration was that they had accidentally been poisoned by the aphrodisiac. These books were actually written by Bei Yang. They recorded what had happened in the past few years. This allowed Yi Xian to gain a basic understanding of the Yin-Yang Temple. The Yin-Yang people in the Yin-Yang Temple would disintegrate as long as they violated a taboo. There were many ways to disintegrate, such as having sex with someone or thinking obscene things. The 2 siblings were accidentally poisoned by the aphrodisiac, which led to their disintegration. After that, they were unable to successfully reunite and were finally expelled from the sect. Of course, the most important thing was that the 2 siblings had poisoned themselves with the aphrodisiac. After being expelled from the Yin-Yang Temple, they married and lived together. Then they established the Bei family. Even the 3 brothers, Bei Xing, Bei Chong, and Bei Sheng, probably didn't know that Bei Yang and Bei Lin were biological siblings. They would never have thought that their own mother was actually their own aunt. Too scary, the Yin-Yang Temple is too scary. Yi Xian couldn't help but swallow his saliva. 2 years ago, Adjudicator Song and Song Sui Jing were kidnapped by the Yin-Yang Patriarch in the Eastern Continent. Now that 2 years had passed, he didn't know how they were doing. Although Elder Tian Shi said that if the Yin-Yang Temple wanted to merge, their souls had to be on the same frequency. If 2 people resisted, it would generally not succeed. However, there were exceptions to everything. Yi Xian didn't want to see Song Sui Jing and Adjudicator Song successfully fused and become Yin-Yang people when he saw them. He would never allow such a thing to happen. Yinyang Patriarch, Aleph *CKU. Yi Xian couldn't help but curse the Yinyang Patriarch hundreds of times in his heart. If thoughts could kill, the Yinyang Patriarch would have died 1,000,000,000 times over. However, the most precious thing here was a peculiar ability. Bewitching Art. This was the name of this ability. However, it seemed to be an illusion ability. This is an illusion created by Bei Yang and Bei Lin. It's specially designed to deal with the Yinyang people of the Yinyang Temple. Yi Xian's eyes lit up. The bewitching art was an illusion that could cause the victim to fall into an erotic dream. This was an illusion created by Bei Yang and Bei Lin after they were expelled from the Yinyang Temple. They originally wanted to use it to deal with the Yinyang Temple, but due to their low cultivation level, they didn't try it out. However, this allowed Yi Xian to take advantage of it. Ding! The bewitching art has been copied successfully. Learn. Yes. Yi Xian immediately learned this illusion ability. He would be enemies with the Yinyang Temple in the future, and it would come in handy when the time came. Haha, Yinyang Patriarch. Watch me destroy your Yinyang Temple. Yi Xian's eyes lit up. If the Yinyang people that had successfully fused disintegrated, they would not be able to fuse again. Yi Xian wanted to use this bewitching art to destroy the Yinyang Temple. The bewitching art was related to the strength of one's soul. Yi Xian's soul was already stronger than others of the same cultivation level, so he might be able to disintegrate the Yinyang Patriarch in the future. That would be great. Yi Xian searched the secret room and only found 2 identity tokens, which belonged to Bei Yang and Bei Lin. Other than that, there was nothing else. I'm pretty lucky this time. I found a clue about the Yinyang Temple and learned a way to deal with the Yinyang people. Once these Yinyang people disintegrate, their vitality will be greatly damaged and their battle strength will be reduced. This is very useful for me. Yi Xian thought to himself. Unfortunately, he did not find the location of the Yinyang Temple. Moreover, this Yinyang Temple seemed to be just a subsidiary temple, not the main temple. Yi Xian left Bei Lin's tomb and asked directly, Bei Shang, do you know where your father came from to the Thousand Treasures Alliance? My father only said that he came from the north. I don't know where exactly. Bei Shang shook his head. Then do you know your mother's name? Yi Xian asked again. Lin Lin. Bei Shang replied. Hearing this name, Yi Xian's eyes flickered. It seemed that Bei Yang had concealed his wife's name to prevent others from gossiping. Now that Yi Xian had found a clue about the Yinyang Temple, he should be able to find it if he headed north. However, the Yinyang Temple was not a small faction. Bei Yang was already in the 9th stage of the fragmentation realm, but he could not use the bewitching art to take revenge. Yi Xian was now in the 6th stage of the fragmentation realm, so he had to improve his cultivation level. Chapter 1345. The eternal earth core fire that the Bei family and treasure-seeking sect have been searching for is with me. As long as I act as bait, I won't be able to raise my cultivation level. Yi Xian narrowed his eyes and left the city lord's mansion. This time, he was prepared to return to that place. As long as the 9th stage fragmentation realm martial artist from treasure-seeking sect didn't come, everything would be fine. Of course, even if he did come, Yi Xian wasn't afraid of him. He was just a 9th stage fragmentation realm martial artist. So what? At that moment, Yi Xian returned to his appearance when he snatched the eternal earth core fire. Then, he headed to the magma world. Treasure-seeking sect didn't know, but he knew that everyone in Million Treasure City had his portrait. As long as he showed up, he would become a thorn in everyone's side. About half an hour later, he arrived at the place that day. There weren't many people searching here. At least, Yi Xian didn't meet anyone. Ding! Devil Tree Battle Soldier broke through. Currently at the 6th stage of the fragmentation realm. Suddenly, a system notification sounded. After the old tree was accelerated by the eternal earth core fire, it actually broke through again in just a few hours. As expected of a strange fire. If the old tree joined forces with Wei Zhentian, it shouldn't be a problem to deal with an 8th stage fragmentation realm martial artist. The eternal earth core fire was the one that boosted the old tree the most, followed by Wei Zhentian, and then Yi Xian and Luo Luo. However, although Luo Luo was only at the 5th stage of the fragmentation realm, after her mutation, her strength was still above the old tree and Wei Zhentian. It wouldn't be a problem for her to fight someone 3 levels higher. Come on, whoever comes will die. Yi Xian narrowed his eyes and took out an iron rod from his universe ring. It was Million Treasure City's signal flare. What he wanted to do now was to be the bait himself. This signal flare wasn't made of gunpowder. Instead, it was compressed true qi in this iron rod. However, it wasn't very powerful and was only used for communication. Whoosh! A beam of flame soared into the sky and exploded high up in the sky. The signal flare had a large range. If the people around saw this signal, they should quickly rush over. Sure enough, in less than 5 minutes, a person rushed over. It was a martial artist at the 7th level of the fragmentation realm. However, this martial artist at the 7th level of the fragmentation realm was not from Million Treasure City. He was actually an elder of the treasure-seeking sect. Moreover, he was Feng Qi who was present at that time. He used the signal flare of Million Treasure City, but he attracted the people of treasure-seeking sect. Yi Xian was a little helpless, but this didn't matter to him. After all, the people who came were here to give him benefits. It's actually this brat. The 7th level fragmentation realm martial practitioner raised an eyebrow when he saw Yi Xian. At that time, he was also present. He personally saw Yi Xian use the strange flame lantern to steal the eternal earth core flame, so at this moment, his feelings could no longer be described with words. The eternal earth core fire was his. However, just as he was about to lean towards Yi Xian, he suddenly felt a sharp pain in his head. Qin Lai, who was at the 7th level of the fragmentation realm, was only 1 level higher than Yi Xian, who was at the 6th level of the fragmentation realm. Yi Xian's Eye of the Soul had dealt him a huge amount of damage. Ding! Control successful. After using the Eye of the Soul twice, Yi Xian successfully controlled Feng Qi. Feng Qi rushed over and threw the interspatial ring to Yi Xian without saying anything. In just a few minutes, Yi Xian obtained a 7th level fragmentation realm interspatial ring, which was considered good. Alright, I'll be here. You go around and inform them of my location, Yi Xian said to Feng Qi. Yes. Feng Qi nodded respectfully and left immediately. At this moment, Yi Xian was like a lanternfish, luring small fish to come closer and then hunting them. As the saying went, the mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. However, at this moment, Yi Xian was both the cicada and the oriole. When he left Million Treasure City, Yi Xian took a large number of signal flares, and after Feng Qi left, he released another one. A few minutes later, a few more people approached, but they were all at the 6th level of the fragmentation realm. These people were handed over to Luo Luo to charm and then let them leave to spread the news. Then, more people came to deliver benefits one after another. They came one after another. Yi Xian stood there and waited, his cultivation base rising continuously. About half an hour later, someone finally arrived who sounded like a human being. This person was wearing the treasure hunting sect's uniform and had a powerful aura. He was at the 8th level of the fragmentation realm. Behind him was the treasure hunting sect's elder Feng Qi, who had been controlled by Yi Xian just now. Finally, the main character is here. Yi Xian's eyes narrowed. The middle-aged man looked at Yi Xian and asked in a low voice, Feng Qi, is this the person you were talking about? Yes. Sect leader. Feng Qi nodded. Good. After hearing this answer, the middle-aged man did not say anything and directly attacked. However, when he rushed out, the sound of wind suddenly appeared. Bam! A sword energy accurately struck his back, and the person who ambushed him happened to be Feng Qi, who had just answered his question. Feng Qi, you! The sect leader of treasure hunting sect widened his eyes in shock. He obviously did not expect Feng Qi to ambush him. Why was that? In the next moment, he realized what had happened. Previously, Feng Qi had found him and said that he had found a clue to the eternal earth core fire, and then brought him here. Now, it seemed that Feng Qi had joined forces with the other party. This ambush had severely injured him, and the meridians on his back were broken. The flow of his true qi was very unnatural. As a result, it would be much easier for Yi Xian to deal with him. The sect leader of treasure hunting sect, huh? Looks like he has a lot of good stuff. Yi Xian could not help but smirk as he turned into a stream of light and rushed out. Unparalleled flame dragon slash. Killing intent explosion. A golden flame dragon roared out. The sect leader of treasure hunting sect could not dodge this attack because he was ambushed by Feng Qi and was instantly engulfed. However, he was still 2 realms higher than Yi Xian, so he was able to block it. However, the unparalleled flame dragon slash had always been a feint, and the real killing move was yet to come. Eye of Destruction. Rip. The sect leader of treasure hunting sect was directly cut in half. His upper and lower halves were instantly dissected, but this was not enough to kill him. However, one should not forget that there was still a traitor. Rip. Feng Qi directly pierced through the head of the treasure hunting sect's sect master. The tip of the sword came out from the center of his brows. Before blood could flow out, Feng Qi pulled out the sword and sent it flying again, sending the head of the treasure hunting sect's sect master flying. Sometimes a pierced head might not kill, but if the head was cut off, unless it was a freak like Yi Xian, most people would die. The sect leader of treasure hunting sect was dead. Ding. Host's killing intent has increased. Chapter 1346. After devouring so many corpses, the devourer beast's experience had increased to 90%. Yi Xian estimated that the devourer beast would evolve into a mid-level devourer beast in a few days' time. If he killed it and devoured its corpse, he would obtain 2 devourer points. At that time, he would have 3 devourer points, which would greatly increase Yi Xian's combat power. Besides, ever since he merged the god-slaying bloodline, he had activated the bloodline fusion system. As long as he had 3 devourer points, he could merge the 2 auxiliary bloodlines to create a stronger auxiliary bloodline. He wondered what effect the new auxiliary bloodline would have after merging the 2 auxiliary bloodlines. Of course, 3 devourer points were not enough if he wanted to merge the 2 bloodlines. Speaking of which, Yi Xian's goal this time was to break through to the 7th level of the fragmentation realm before heading north. The 8th level of the fragmentation realm's universe ring alone was not enough for him to break through. Feng Qi, other than your sect leader, are there any 8th level experts of the fragmentation realm? Yi Xian asked. Yes, the Supreme Elder is here as well. Feng Qi nodded. Good, then call him here as well. Yi Xian nodded. Yes. Feng Qi replied and left immediately. Yi Xian continued to wait. As the benefits continued to arrive, Yi Xian's cultivation base continued to improve. Ding! Wei Zhentian has broken through. Currently at the 7th level of the fragmentation realm. Wei Zhentian's improvement speed was the fastest among Yi Xian's 4. Coupled with the tempering of the eternal earth core fire, his strength continued to improve as well. An hour later, another heavyweight expert had arrived. It was the Beichong from back then. Kid, it's you? Beichong looked at Yi Xian in shock. That's right, it's me. Yi Xian nodded slightly and said, the eternal earth core fire is with me. If you want it, you'll have to kill me. The eternal earth core fire. Beichong was furious when he heard the name. A few hours ago, he had personally witnessed the eternal earth core fire being taken away by Yi Xian using the heavenly flame lantern. After searching for a few hours, he finally found Yi Xian. But why was Yi Xian so calm at this moment? Could it be that there was an ambush nearby? That's impossible. Even a 9th level fragmentation realm expert might not be able to ambush me with my current realm. There's clearly no one else around. Beichong subconsciously thought about it. Seeing that the other party didn't move, Yi Xian also mocked, 8th stage of the fragmentation realm. You're actually afraid of me. A 6th stage fragmentation realm martial artist. You're not a paper tiger, are you? What did you say? Beichang's eyes flashed. Even his beard was fluttering in anger. Yi Xian actually called him a paper tiger. How could he tolerate this? I said, paper tiger. Yi Xian enunciated each word clearly. Wah, I'm going to skin you alive. Beichong was instantly enraged as he charged towards Yi Xian. Good timing. The corners of Yi Xian's mouth curled up slightly as he instantly cloned himself. Although it was a lava hell beneath his feet, Yi Xian had already condensed a floating island with the all creation's force. As long as he stepped on land, his speed would be twice as fast as before. If he cloned himself, it would be enough to deal with an 8th stage fragmentation realm martial artist. As such, it was naturally better to use the Ice and Fire Twin Dragon's sword array. A puppet? Seeing Yi Xian split into 2, Beichong was stunned for a moment before he immediately reacted. But before he pounced, Yi Xian had already used his mind's eye on him. Good boy, you even know how to use a soul attack. Beichong shouted angrily as he directly slashed with his sword. Whoosh! The sword ray pierced through the air and instantly split the floating island beneath Yi Xian's feet into two. But in the next moment, Yi Xian used the all creation's force to reconnect it. Ice and Fire Twin Dragons Sword Array. Twin Dragons Roar. The two Yi Xian attacked together, and the two heavenly dragon phantoms merged into one. They opened their bloody mouths and spat out a mouthful of dragon's breath. This attack was several times more powerful than the flame dragon's unparalleled slash. Even Bei Chong, who was at the 8th stage of the fragmentation realm, could not block it. How is this possible? How can this boy release such a powerful attack? Bei Chong could not believe it. His figure flashed and brushed past the ice and fire dragon's breath. If he had been a little slower, he would probably have turned into ashes. This attack had already surpassed the Fire Devil Lord's fireball attack, which shocked Bei Chong greatly. However, this was not Yi Xian's most powerful attack. If I consume both the frozen sky pill and the burning sky pill at once, the power of the twin dragon's roar will at least double. Even a 9th stage fragmentation realm expert would probably die if they were hit. Yi Xian thought in his heart. However, he was afraid that if he consumed the frozen sky pill, it would be effective on his clone as well. In that case, he could not consume the frozen sky pill and the burning sky pill together. If there was a chance in the future, he would exchange for 2 pills to try. No, rather than in the future, he might as well try it today. Ding. Burning sky pill successfully exchanged. Ding. Freezing sky pill successfully exchanged. These 2 6th-stage fragmentation realm pills cost almost half of Yi Xian's super engulfment crystal, which made Yi Xian feel the pinch. However, if he succeeded, then his combat strength would be raised to another level. Ding. Burning sky pill successfully swallowed. Yi Xian first tried the burning sky pill. He used his original body to swallow it, but what surprised him was that only his original body had the effect of the burning sky pill. Haha, it's effective as expected. Yi Xian laughed loudly in his heart and let his clone swallow the frozen sky pill. Ding! Freezing sky pill successfully swallowed. His original body had flame attribute true qi, while his clone had ice attribute true qi. Both of them passively increased the power of the dual dragon roar. Yi Xian's eyes flickered, and he suddenly realized that the ice dragon and flame dragon silhouettes had more than doubled in size. Come, let me test its power. Ice and Fire Dual Dragon Sword Array. Dual Dragon Roar. The ice dragon and flame dragon silhouettes merged into one, opened their mouths, and spat out another dragon breath of ice and fire. However, the dragon breath of ice and fire this time was more than twice as strong as before, even reaching 3 times as strong. The attack range of this attack was much larger, and it instantly engulfed the wide-eyed Bei Chong. Almost at the same time, Yi Xian heard a system notification sound. Ding! Host's killing intent has increased. Instant kill! Bei Chong, who was at the 8th stage of the fragmentation realm, was actually instantly killed by Yi Xian. Even a 9th stage fragmentation realm expert would be severely injured if not killed by this attack, let alone him. Haha, not only has the attack range increased, even the power has increased. I have another trump card. Yi Xian was extremely excited. Chapter 1347. Ice and fire were incompatible. If they were to combine, who knew what would happen? If they wanted to merge, they would have to remove one of the effects first. Besides, Yi Xian did not know if the Eye of Glory would conceal the effects of the burning sky pill or the freezing sky pill. Therefore, he wanted to test it when the effects of the 2 pills were about to reach an hour. If the Eye of Glory did not conceal the effects, then its power might increase by another level. After Bei Chong died, Yi Xian rushed over to take his universe ring and devoured the things inside. I'm about to break through. One more and I'll be done. Yi Xian narrowed his eyes. He could kill an 8th stage fragmentation realm martial artist instantly when he was at the 6th stage of the fragmentation realm. If he broke through to the 7th stage of the fragmentation realm, he should be able to kill a 9th stage fragmentation realm martial artist instantly. At that time, he would be almost invincible in the fragmentation realm, unless the enemy had a Nirvana divine ability. There was still an hour left before the burning sky pill and the freezing sky pill took effect. Yi Xian continued to wait here, hoping to encounter an 8th stage fragmentation realm martial artist in the next hour, such as Bei family's Bei Xing or treasure-seeking sect's Grand Supreme Elder. At this moment, he had more than 10 subordinates wandering around the periphery. If these 2 people were still searching, they should come over. The person who delivered the benefits was still continuing. In less than half an hour, Yi Xian controlled another 4 martial artists at the 7th level of the fragmentation realm, including Tuoba Yi. Even if there were no 8th stage fragmentation realm martial artists, Yi Xian was confident that he could break through to the 7th stage of the fragmentation realm within an hour. However, 50 minutes after he took the burning sky pill and the freezing sky pill, another martial artist finally came. This time, it was Bei family's Bei Xing. After seeing Bei Xing with the Eye of Revelation, Yi Xian did not say anything and directly attacked. "Kid, where's the eternal earth core fire?" Bei Xing asked tentatively. At the same time, he casually defeated Yi Xian's probing attack. "Are you talking about this?" Yi Xian took out the eternal earth core fire from the planting space. The fire immediately spread and shone on Bei Xing's face. Eternal earth core fire? Bei Xing's eyes flashed with greed. He didn't expect Yi Xian to have the eternal earth core fire. He originally thought that Yi Xian had already hidden the eternal earth core fire, but he never thought that he would still have it on him. This time, even the heavens were helping him. "Brat, I can overlook the fact that you stole the eternal earth core fire. As long as you give it to me, I will spare your life," Bei Xing said. "Spare my life?" Yi Xian raised an eyebrow and shook his head. "You won't spare me." "I will. I, Bei Xing, am a man of my word. As long as you are willing to hand it over and not force my hand, I will let you go." Bei Xing was still a little wary of Yi Xian's background, so he made this offer. "Oh, then after you see this, will you still let me live?" Yi Xian smirked and took something out of the devouring space. It was a sword, but it was only a 4th-grade elemental artifact. However, Bei Xing was very familiar with this weapon because it belonged to his younger brother, Bei Chang. He had been using it for more than 10 years. "Bei Chang's sword?" Bei Xing recognized it at first glance and exclaimed, "Impossible! How did you get Bei Chang's weapon?" "If I said that he was already killed by me and turned into ashes, would you believe me?" Yi Xian said with an indifferent expression. "How is that possible?" Bei Xing clearly didn't believe him. "You are only at the 6th stage of the fragmentation realm. How did you kill Bei Chang?" "Not only can I kill Bei Chang, but I can also kill you. Would you believe me?" Yi Xian said. Now, Bei Xing was successfully infuriated by Yi Xian. Since Yi Xian didn't know how to appreciate his kindness, he would teach Yi Xian a lesson. Whoosh! Bei Xing immediately turned into a ray of light and charged toward Yi Xian. He was very fast and arrived in front of the 2 Yi Xian in the blink of an eye. Since he thought that one of the 2 Yi Xian was a puppet, he had to test which one was the real Yi Xian. Unfortunately, he didn't know that both of them were Yi Xian's real body. "You are a stepping stone for my breakthrough." Dang! The 2 Yi Xian's eyes flickered. Ice and Fire Dual Dragon Sword Array. Dual Dragon Roar. The 2 heavenly dragon silhouettes merged into one. Boom! A dragon's breath erupted. In front of this dragon's breath, Bei Xing was like an ant. At this moment, he finally believed that Yi Xian had the ability to kill Bei Chang. At the same time, he also had the ability to kill him. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The thick dragon's breath of ice and fire pierced through the air. Bei Xing broke out in cold sweat. Fortunately, he dodged quickly. Otherwise, he would have died from this attack. When he came to his senses, he found that his left arm was frozen by the ice attribute aura. He was not hit, but his arm was frozen. This was the power of the sky freezing pill. "You're lucky to have dodged this attack. But can you dodge this attack?" Yi Xian's eyes flickered. Suddenly, a slender figure came out of the dragon's breath of ice and fire and entered Bei Xing's head. This slender figure was Wei Zhentian, who was hiding in the dragon's breath of ice and fire. Ding! The host's killing intent has increased. Bei Xing had the same fate as his younger brother. He was killed instantly. This time, Yi Xian should have the cultivation resources to break through to the 7th tier of the void-breaking realm. Ding! The host has broken through. The host is currently at the 7th tier of the void-breaking realm. As expected, Yi Xian successfully broke through after devouring the things in Bei Xing's universe ring. Now, he was almost invincible in the void-breaking realm. Good, I finally broke through. Yi Xian smiled with relief. Now, only the 2 Yuan palaces in his body were not shattered. As long as these 2 Yuan palaces were shattered, he could use all his natal qi to temper his body. Then, he would be able to withstand the temperature of the exotic fire. Of course, the eternal earth core fire was ranked 93rd on the exotic fire list. It might be a little difficult. Immediately, Yi Xian used the Eye of Glory. When the golden hair and golden eyes appeared, the flame attribute in his body disappeared, and all his natal qi turned golden. As expected, the bloodline is superior to the elixir. The effect is stronger than the elixir. What a pity! If I could use the Eye of Glory, my attack power would be raised to another level. Yi Xian laughed bitterly. Then, he broke through the void and left. Although he could earn more if he stayed here, he had finally found the whereabouts of the Xianming duo. Naturally, he had to hurry on his way. It took him 2 hours to break through from the 6th tier of the void-breaking realm to the 7th tier of the void-breaking realm. If he hurried on after breaking through, he could save a lot of time. Yi Xian returned to the city lord's residence in Million Treasure City and checked if the Bei family patriarch, Bei Yang, had returned. Chapter 1348. Fire Cloud Palace, Earth Fiend's Island, Void City. Yi Xian looked at the map he obtained from Bei Shang and muttered to himself. These were the 3 Nirvana realm factions in the north. However, he did not know which one Bei Yang had gone to. Fire Cloud Palace was northwest of the Myriad Treasure Alliance, Earth Fiend's Island was north, and Void City was northeast. Although Patriarch Bei was heading north, it did not mean that he was heading to Earth Fiend's Island. This was because he could suddenly change directions midway. Yi Xian observed carefully and realized that there were indeed dangerous areas on the way to Fire Cloud Palace and Void City. However, it was nothing to Patriarch Bei Yang, who was at the 9th stage of the fragmentation realm. The mystic netherworld duo demons are reincarnators. They might need some special items such as alchemy. If Bei Yang were to search for natural treasures midway, he might not be heading to Earth Fiend's Island. Yi Xian pondered for a moment and finally made a decision. His true body would head to Earth Fiend's Island while his avatar would head to Fire Cloud Palace. If he was lucky, Bei Yang would be in one of these 2 factions. At the same time, he would let Wei Zhentian hold down the fort in the Bei family. If Bei Yang returned to the Bei family, Yi Xian could return immediately and capture Bei Yang alive to interrogate him. With this in mind, Yi Xian immediately began his journey. In his unfused state, his true body and avatar would take about a day and a half to reach Fire Cloud Palace and Earth Fiend's Island by using shadow steps. If there was nothing in these 2 places, he would head to Void City from Earth Fiend's Island. The Myriad Treasure Alliance does not have any information on the Yin Yang Sacred Hall. However, Fire Cloud Palace, Earth Fiend's Island, and Void City all have Nirvana realm experts. They should know where the Yin Yang Sacred Hall is, Yi Xian thought to himself. Even if they did not know, he guessed that the Yin Yang Sacred Hall was nearby. After all, Bei Yang was once a disciple of the Yin Yang Sacred Hall branch. As long as he headed north, he would definitely find clues. The time spent on the road was always dull and long. Yi Xian's avatar was the first to arrive at Fire Cloud Palace. However, Fire Cloud Palace had a Nirvana realm expert presiding over it. Therefore, he could only use his Eye of Mind to control a few Fire Cloud Palace disciples and get them to investigate. However, there were no clues. Half a day later, Yi Xian's real body arrived at Earth Emanation's Island as well. Just as he was about to begin his investigation, Wei Zhentian suddenly sent him a message. The patriarch of the Bei family, Bei Yang, had actually returned. What? The 2 Yi Xian in Fire Cloud Palace and Earth Fiend Island trembled before they tore through the void and returned to Myriad Treasure City. Merge. The 2 Yi Xian fused together and arrived before Wei Zhentian. At that moment, there was already a person beside Wei Zhentian. It was Bei Shang. Your father is back? Yi Xian asked. Yes, father is back. However, the moment he returned, he entered seclusion, said Bei Shang with a nod. When Yi Xian heard this, he felt a trace of strangeness and said, That's impossible, right? Even if your father left a day earlier than me, he's only at the 9th level of the fragmentation realm. How could he possibly go back and forth with 2 people? When he finished speaking, he was also guessing whether Bei Yang had handed the person over to the next protector halfway through the journey. Bei Shang paused for a moment before answering. When my father returned, his aura soared. Furthermore, he looked a lot younger. I'm guessing that he has already broken through to the Nirvana realm. Nirvana realm? Upon hearing that, the corners of Yi Xian's mouth could not help but twitch. He had heard that Bei Yang had been stuck at the 9th stage of the fragmentation realm for several years. Now, he had suddenly broken through to the Nirvana realm? Wait, the Xianming duo demons are reincarnated beings. Although their realms are low now, they have already awakened their memories. They won't lose their experience. Perhaps Bei Yang only broke through to the Nirvana realm after receiving their guidance. Yi Xian's eyes suddenly lit up. The more he thought about it, the more he felt that it was possible. The most precious thing about a reincarnated being was their experience. It was really easy for them to guide a 9th stage fragmentation realm warrior. Not to mention the fragmentation realm, even the Nirvana realm, longevity realm, or even the rebirth realm would not be a problem. The Bei family's patriarch, Bei Yang, was only at the 9th stage of the fragmentation realm before he left. After returning, he suspected to be at the Nirvana realm. Alright, I'll assume that he's at the Nirvana realm. After receiving guidance from the Xianming duo demons, he broke through to the Nirvana realm. However, he hasn't consolidated his foundation yet, so he needs to enter seclusion, Yi Xian thought to himself. He then turned to ask Bei Shang, "Where is your father in seclusion?" "In the one-line sky east of Million Treasure City," replied Bei Shang. "All right." Yi Xian nodded. Then, he left with Wei Zhentian. In this 1 day and a half, the old tree and Luo Luo had broken through to the 7th stage of the fragmentation realm. In other words, Yi Xian and the other 3 were already at the 7th stage of the fragmentation realm. Moreover, they had trump cards like the infinite returning swords and the berserk python sweep. In addition, Bei Yang had just broken through and had not consolidated his foundation yet. Therefore, Yi Xian might be able to fight against a Nirvana realm warrior. The one-line sky, huh? After Yi Xian left Million Treasure City and walked east for a while, he found a formation as expected. It must be the formation that Bei Yang had set up. Luo Luo, old tree, Wei Zhentian, our enemy this time is very powerful. We can't be careless. Yi Xian looked at the old figure in the formation from afar, and said in a low voice, "Don't worry, young master. My current strength is not weaker than yours." Luo Luo giggled. The faith crystal had long been completely refined by her. However, with the eternal earth core fire, her speed of refining heaven and earth treasures was even faster. Therefore, she caught up within a day. Hearing this, Yi Xian nodded in agreement. Luo Luo had mutated into a 9-tailed beast. Under the situation of the same level, Yi Xian was not 100% confident that he could defeat Luo Luo. In addition to the undying old tree and Wei Zhentian, Yi Xian was 80% confident that he could kill Bei Yang this time. "In that case, let's go." Yi Xian shouted in a low voice and directly attacked. A golden flame dragon whistled out. Rumble! The formation was instantly broken, and Yi Xian entered. At the same time, Bei Yang, who was cultivating in seclusion in the one-line sky, suddenly opened his eyes. Bei Yang was not younger than Lu Tiangong. He was already more than 150 years old, but after breaking through to the Nirvana realm, he looked a lot younger. He looked like an old man in his 60s. His turbid eyes landed on Yi Xian as he asked in surprise, "Who are you?" After he returned, he had actually entered seclusion in the one-line sky. Coincidentally, there were people guarding the one-line sky, so he reported it to Beishing. Therefore, he did not know about the eternal earth core fire, much less that Yi Xian was wanted by Million Treasure City and treasure-seeking sect. "My name is Yi Xian, a disciple of Fire Cloud Palace. I have something to ask you," Yi Xian said directly. Chapter 1349. Bei Yang could sense that Yi Xian was only at the 7th firmament of the fragmentation realm. However, in Fire Cloud Palace, a 7th firmament fragmentation realm was only an outer sect disciple. It was nothing. "I'm here to investigate a matter under the orders of my sect." As Yi Xian spoke, he took out 2 portraits from his interspatial ring. On the portraits were the faces of the Xianming twin specters. Upon seeing the duo, Bei Yang's body trembled slightly. The Xianming twin specters had given him pointers, allowing him to break through to the Nirvana realm after years of shackles. How could he not know them? "May I ask if you have seen them before?" inquired Yi Xian. "No," Bei Yang answered without a second thought. Then he asked, "Why are you looking for them?" "I'm not sure either. However, if you can find any clues, you will be rewarded with 500 Nirvana pills. If you can find them, you will be rewarded with 2,000 Nirvana pills." said Yi Xian. In fact, he was just randomly making things up. The moment that was said, Bei Yang was astounded. 500 nirvana pills? 2,000 nirvana pills? Just a clue, and the reward of 500 nirvana pills was a pretty good deal. However, he did not know why Fire Cloud Palace was looking for the Xianming twin specters. If they wanted to harm the Xianming twin specters, wouldn't he be an ingrate if he had any clues? Furthermore, he did not know if Yi Xian was telling the truth. If he were to believe Yi Xian's one-sided story so easily, he would have wasted his 150 years of life. I don't know them. Leave. Bei Yang finally made a decision as he said to Yi Xian. Although 500 nirvana pills was tempting, he had sent the Xianming twin specters into the hands of experts. If he was discovered, he would die without a burial ground. Not only that, even the Bei family that he had built up, or even Myriad Treasure City, would be destroyed. Upon hearing Bei Yang's answer, Yi Xian narrowed his eyes and said with a smile, "However, why did I hear that you once escorted the two of them to the north?" This sentence made Bei Yang's wrinkled face tremble. He suddenly shot out two beams of light as he bellowed, "Humph, I said I haven't seen them, so I haven't." Let me guess. Did you go to Void City in the past 2 days? After Yi Xian finished speaking, he looked at Bei Yang's expression and said, "Or is it Earth Fiend Island?" When he heard the words Earth Fiend Island, he saw Bei Yang's eyes narrow slightly. Although it was only a split second, and the range was very small, making it difficult for ordinary people to notice, who was Yi Xian? He had the eye of revelation. Even though Bei Yang was already a Nirvana realm powerhouse, he could not escape his eyes. So it is Earth Fiend Island. Yi Xian muttered to himself. Now, he could confirm that Bei Yang had escorted the Xianming duo demons to Earth Emanations Island. Humph, please go back. Bei Yang didn't expect his position to be exposed. He snorted in displeasure. That won't do. I want to know who you gave him to. Yi Xian continued to ask. Kid, you've disturbed my seclusion. I'll give you 3 seconds to leave this place. Otherwise. Bei Yang narrowed his eyes. Otherwise what? Yi Xian asked curiously. Bei Yang's eyes suddenly narrowed as he said sternly, "Otherwise, even if you are a Fire Cloud Palace disciple, you will be in deep trouble." From the looks of it, Bei Yang was already infuriated. Although Fire Cloud Palace was much stronger than the Myriad Treasures Alliance, Bei Yang had already broken through to the Nirvana realm. Furthermore, he was related to Earth Fiend Island. If Fire Cloud Palace wanted to touch him, Earth Fiend Island would not sit idly by. To put it simply, apart from breaking through to the Nirvana realm, he had also found a powerful backer. However, Yi Xian wasn't afraid of Earth Fiend Island. At that moment, he was pondering over a problem. He already knew the location of the Xianming duo demons. As such, he could avoid this battle. However, he still had some questions to ask Bei Yang. All right, I won't continue asking about this matter. However, I still have one more thing to ask, Yi Xian said slowly. However, before he could finish his sentence, Bei Yang immediately chased him away. Scram! Bei Yang roared angrily. It wasn't easy for him to break through to the Nirvana realm. Seclusion was the most important thing for him. He was already unhappy that Yi Xian had disturbed his seclusion. The reason why he only made a move now was because of Yi Xian's identity. Facing Bei Yang's punch across the air, Yi Xian's expression darkened. He immediately took out the Scarlet Flame Sword, which had been forged using the Super Devouring Crystal, and slashed down ruthlessly. Unparalleled Flaming Dragon Slash. A golden flaming dragon whizzed out and collided with Bei Yang's fist. After the two collided intensely, they transformed into a shockwave that swept across the area. A casual strike from a Nirvana realm expert was enough to force Yi Xian to use his divine power. This was the strength of a Nirvana realm expert. However, the difference between a Nirvana realm expert and a Fragmentation realm expert was that a Fragmentation realm expert had something new. This new thing was called Nirvana Fire. If an attack was infused with this Nirvana Fire, it would be extremely powerful. Yi Xian was afraid of this. Therefore, he didn't want to fight Bei Yang for the time being. Oh, you're quite capable. Bei Yang looked at Yi Xian with interest. His casual punch was already stronger than an 8th-tier Fragmentation realm martial artist's divine power. If he used his full strength, its power would be comparable to a 9th-tier Fragmentation realm martial artist's divine power. However, Yi Xian actually took it head-on. Although he used his divine power, Yi Xian was only at the 7th tier of the fragmentation realm. Facing Bei Yang's shocked gaze, Yi Xian went straight to the point. I want to ask, where is the Yin Yang Temple's branch? Boom. As soon as he finished speaking, Bei Yang shuddered violently. This question gave him a fright. The Yin Yang Temple's branch? Say that again? Bei Yang's eyes widened as if he had heard wrongly. I'm looking for the Yin Yang Temple. You should know. Yi Xian continued to ask. I should know. Bei Yang's eyes widened. He shouted angrily. Who are you? Why would you ask that? You don't know who I am, answered Yi Xian. However, his answer seemed to reveal something. You aren't a Fire Cloud Palace disciple. Who are you? Bei Yang's aura suddenly surged as it pressed down on Yi Xian. The latter found it difficult to breathe. Thankfully, he wasn't an ordinary person. Otherwise, he would have been immobilized by the suppression. In that case, I won't hide it from you. I know you were once a Yin Yang Temple disciple, and my wife was captured by the Yin Yang Temple, so I'm investigating. Yi Xian felt somewhat helpless. Who asked him to expose himself? He could only admit it. Boom. This answer made Bei Yang's body tremble again. Even his 3 sons didn't know that he was a Yin Yang Temple disciple. However, Yi Xian actually knew. Chapter 1350. You deserve to die. Bei Yang ignored the second half of Yi Xian's sentence. After roaring angrily, he shot out and prepared to strangle Yi Xian to death. Humph, it's not certain who will live and who will die. Seeing that this battle was unavoidable, Yi Xian's eyes flickered a few times before he suddenly attacked. Killing intent explosion. Peerless flame dragon slash. A golden flame dragon rushed out. At the same time there were 2 figures. One was Wei Zhentian, who had transformed into a heavenly dragon, and the other was the devil tree battle soldier, Old Tree. Both of them were in the 7th stage of the fragmentation realm, but Bei Yang was in the nirvana realm. With a gap of 3 stages, they would not be as effective. However, Yi Xian was very cautious in this battle. Even if they were not effective, it would be enough as long as they were slightly effective. Yi Xian's sudden appearance shocked Bei Yang. Even he, a nirvana realm elite, did not notice it. How did Yi Xian do it? Whatever, this was not important. What was important was that he wanted Yi Xian to die. Cloud parting palm. Bei Yang did not have a weapon. He directly slapped out with one hand, and a transparent palm covered Yi Xian. Bang! This move directly shattered Yi Xian's peerless flame dragon slash. The Nirvana realm's chi was much stronger than Yi Xian's, who was in the 7th stage of the fragmentation realm. Yi Xian estimated that this attack could only be blocked with the double dragon roar. Killing intent explosion. Peerless flame dragon slash. Yi Xian added another attack and finally shattered the invisible hand. However, at this time, he heard 2 system notifications. Ding! Wei Zhentian has died. Ding! Devil Tree Battle Soldier has died. While Yi Xian was blocking the attack, Wei Zhentian and Old Tree had been dealt with by Bei Yang. However, Yi Xian released them in the next moment. What? Bei Yang was extremely shocked. He had clearly smashed Wei Zhentian and the Old Tree into pieces. Why did he appear now? Could it be that he was under an illusion just now? Impossible. He was in the Nirvana realm, and Yi Xian was only in the 7th stage of the fragmentation realm. How could he fall for an illusion? However, at this moment, Yi Xian took advantage of his shock to use a divine ability he had just learned. In the next moment, a woman suddenly appeared in front of Bei Yang. Bei Yang was very familiar with this woman because she was Bei Yang's wife and also his sister, Bei Lin. Lina? Bei Yang's body trembled. He was actually seeing his wife who had died many years ago. How was this possible? Although he knew that he had fallen into an illusion this time, he suddenly didn't want to break out of this illusion. In the illusion, Bei Lin looked like she was 18 years old. She was young and cute. She had just married Bei Yang not long ago. Although it had been more than 100 years, Bei Yang still remembered it clearly. There were portraits of Bei Lin at every age. Brother! Bei Lin called out shyly. Bei Yang hadn't heard this voice for many years. Lina! Tears welled up in Bei Yang's eyes. However, at this moment, Bei Lin's action shocked Bei Yang. Bei Lin suddenly began to undress. In the blink of an eye, she had taken off all her clothes, revealing her smooth, jade-like skin. "Lin, are you?" Beiyang was shocked. Suddenly, a thought flashed across his mind. Bewitching technique? This was not an ordinary illusion. It was the bewitching technique that he had created himself. While he was under the illusion, Yi Xian directly launched an attack. Killing intent explosion. Unparalleled flame dragon slash. Another golden flame dragon whizzed out. However, this was not shown in the illusion. Beiyang could not see it, but he could feel it. Cloud-pushing palm. Beiyang struck out again and turned the golden flame dragon into ashes. At the same time, he also blasted the naked Bei Lin away. Lina. Beiyang was heartbroken. It was not easy for him to see Bei Lin, but he knew that this was fake. Now, he was sure that Yi Xian had entered Bei Lin's tomb. As for how he had entered, he had to capture Yi Xian first. Yi Xian was only at the 7th stage of the fragmentation realm, but he could make him fall for the illusion. If he could control Yi Xian, then he might be able to see Bei Lin in the illusion. Although they had only fought twice, Yi Xian already knew how powerful a Nirvana realm martial artist was. If Beiyang used Nirvana fire, he would definitely not be able to block it. Blade Storm and Berserk Python can be used once every 3 days. If I use them now, I won't be able to use them if I encounter danger on Earth Fiend Island. Yi Xian thought to himself. He was very conflicted. Should he fight Beiyang with all his strength? This way, he could see the true strength of a Nirvana realm martial artist. However, even if he killed Beiyang, he would not gain much. After all, Beiyang had just broken through to the Nirvana realm. He did not have much wealth. No, this Beiyang has already successfully escorted the Xianming duo demons to Earth Fiend Island. He must have received a lot of rewards. If I kill him, I might be able to break through to the 8th stage of the fragmentation realm. At that thought, Yi Xian's eyes lit up. Blade Storm and Berserk Python had a cooldown of 3 days. However, as long as he broke through to the 8th stage of the fragmentation realm, it would be safer to have these 2 trump cards. Therefore, he decided to use them. Wei Zhentian, old tree, go! After making the decision in his heart, Yi Xian shouted. In the next instant, a strong wind appeared. Divine Wood Prison. In the blink of an eye, a huge prison appeared and trapped Yi Xian and Beiyang. Then, sharp vines shot out one after another. There were more than 10,000 of them, and they attacked Beiyang. What the hell is this? Beiyang was shocked. He hurriedly activated his true Qi and all creation's force to defend himself. He blocked this round of sharp vines. However, there was another danger approaching at this moment. Blade Storm. The blood swords turned into streams of light and attacked Beiyang. Even Beiyang, who was at the Nirvana realm, could not block the combination of these 2 ultimate moves. Damn it, how can you force me to this extent? Beiyang's face darkened. He suddenly activated another type of energy in his body. Nirvana Fire. True Qi, all creation's force, and Nirvana Fire gathered together and turned into a flaming barrier. All the blood swords that came at him were burned to ashes. Wei Zhentian is still unable to block the Nirvana Fire after being tempered by the eternal Earth Core Fire for a few days. Yi Xian narrowed his eyes. Nirvana realm cultivators could merge with exotic fire. Not only could they obtain the exotic fire's power, but they could also improve their physique. Most importantly, it could increase the power of the Nirvana Fire. Unfortunately, Wei Zhentian's realm was too low. If he was at the 8th stage of the fragmentation realm, he could withstand the Nirvana Fire. Chapter 1351. The Nirvana Fire is different from the all creation's force. Like vital energy, it will be exhausted. Let's see how long you can last. Yi Xian's eyes flashed as he played his last trump card. Luo Luo. I haven't had a good fight since I mutated. This time, I'll show you my current strength. Luo Luo giggled. Her body began to flicker as her doppelgangers appeared one after another. Previously, some of her doppelgangers were illusions, some were energy doppelgangers, and only one of them was her true self. But now, out of her 108 doppelgangers, 107 of them were actually formed from spiritual qi and the power of all creations. Secret technique: purifying demonic lotus fire. Luolua's true self and 107 doppelgangers attacked together. They formed a vital energy lotus flower and smashed it down. Luoluo had learned this move after mutating. This was the first time she had used it. The meteorite-like transparent lotus flower fell. Even Yi Xian was shocked by its power. Seeing this, Bei Yong didn't dare to be careless. He struck out with his palm, preparing to destroy the giant lotus flower. This palm was infused with the nirvana fire. It was Bei Yang's strongest attack. The lotus flower and the giant palm collided. The two powerful attacks repelled each other and finally exploded. The resulting shockwave swept out and destroyed the berserk python and the divine wood prison. Bei Yang was shocked. He didn't expect Luoluo's move to be on par with his strongest attack. It was unbelievable. Fortunately, the shockwave knocked away the berserk python and the storm of swords. He was temporarily out of trouble. However, at this moment, he realized that Yi Xian was gone. Where is he? Bei Yang widened his eyes and looked around for Yi Xian. He didn't know that Yi Xian had already arrived behind him. Death hunt. Eye of assassination. Killing intent explosion. Unparalleled flame dragon slash. A golden flame dragon roared out and swallowed Bei Yang. At the same time, there was a sharp slash in this golden flame dragon. Eye of destruction. A crisp sound was drowned out by the flame dragon's roar. However, this eye of destruction did injure Bei Yang. Yi Xian used the Eye of Revelation to see that Bei Yang had sacrificed an arm to escape. Just now, in order to deal with Luoluo's attack, Bei Yang had consumed a large amount of Xianxia and Nirvana fire. Following that, Yi Xian's sneak attack had slowed his reaction by a beat, causing his Xianxia to be insufficient. His defense was first broken by the golden flame dragon. Then one of his arms was cut off by the Eye of Annihilation. A few 7th stage fragmentation realm martial artists had actually forced him, a Nirvana realm martial artist, into such a state. It was already very successful. While Bei Yang was still in shock, the 108 figures in the air suddenly turned into golden flashes and attacked Bei Yang. These 108 Luoluos did not use the 9 flash of Samsara, but the ordinary demon fox flash. However, among the 108 Luoluos, 107 of them were true energy avatars. Even if they died, the Luoluos would not be injured at all. Damn it, Nirvana fire. Bei Yang quickly gathered his vital energy and set up a Nirvana fire defense around his body. Then, the vital energy clones crashed into it and were burned to ashes. The Nirvana fire defense couldn't be broken by ordinary people. However, Yi Xian had a technique to counter this kind of energy. Eye of Destruction. Bam! The protection of the Nirvana flames was actually broken through by Yi Xian. Immediately after, a petite figure entered. Swish! A crisp sound resounded as the protection of the Nirvana flames vanished without a trace, and it had completely vanished. Bei Yang's head was cut off by Luoluo and thrown into the air. Ding! The host's killing intent has increased. The system notification proved that Bei Yang had been killed. A Nirvana stage powerhouse had fallen just like that. Although Bei Yang was a Nirvana realm elite, he had just broken through and needed at least a few days or even half a month to consolidate his strength. Therefore, his strength was considered the weakest among the Nirvana realm elites. That was why Yi Xian worked together to kill him. Otherwise, he would have to fight for a while to kill him. Yi Xian immediately rushed over and took Bei Yang's body and the interspatial ring. He could throw the body to the devourer. After all, it was the body of a Nirvana realm elite. Ding! The host has broken through. Currently, he is in the 8th tier of the fragmentation realm. Ding! Wei Zhentian has broken through. Currently, he is in the 8th tier of the fragmentation realm. Ding! Wei Zhentian has broken through. Currently, he is in the 9th tier of the fragmentation realm. Bei Yang had indeed obtained quite a few good things, but what Yi Xian didn't expect was that there was actually a tier 5 heavenly artifact among them. Unfortunately, Bei Yang didn't like using swords, so he didn't use it. In that case, Wei Zhentian had taken advantage of him. Bei Yang knew that the Xianming duo demons had been handed over to someone on Earth Fiend Island. However, Yi Xian wasn't worried. As long as he went to Earth Fiend Island, he could use his Eye of the Soul to find out. However, before he went to Earth Fiend Island, he heard another system notification. Ding! The Devourer has successfully evolved. After eating so many corpses, the devouring beast finally succeeded in advancing. However, when Yi Xian saw the experience of the intermediate devouring beast advancing to the high devouring beast, He was speechless. The experience required to evolve from a low level to a mid-level was less than 1/10,000th of the experience required to evolve from a mid-level to a high level. Yi Xian remembered that when he captured the low-level devourer, he was at the 4th stage of the fragmentation realm. At the same time, the low-level devourer already had 80% of the experience required to evolve. Then, he broke through from the 4th stage of the fragmentation realm to the 8th stage of the fragmentation realm. He didn't know how many corpses he had thrown into the devourer. However, the low-level devourer only increased his experience by 20%. It was obvious that the experience required to evolve from a mid-level devourer to a high-level devourer was enormous. How scary! This devourer has probably existed for many years. It's not easy to increase its experience to 80%. Forget it. I won't continue to feed it. Yi Xian thought about it and made a decision. Devour. Ding! The host has devoured a mid-level devourer. You have obtained 2 devour points. The system notification sounded. The experience required to evolve a mid-level devourer to a high-level devourer was too much. Yi Xian knew that he couldn't put out a nearby fire. Hence, he devoured the devourer without hesitation. Now, he had obtained 2 more devour points. Just 1 more devour point and I can fuse the divine tree of life bloodline with the Gemini bloodline and give birth to a new bloodline. Chapter 1352. Yi Xian had already gathered all 6 bloodlines. Furthermore, all 6 bloodlines had been upgraded to the highest level. If he wanted to upgrade them further, he would have to fuse them. However, he was still lacking 1 devour point. Hence, he was considering whether to wait for the next random mission to appear or to do something else. For example, retracting his skills. Megatron only has 1 skill now, which is Bladestorm. This skill still has room for improvement. The old tree has 2 skills. One is Berserk Python Sweep and the other is Divine Wood Prison. Yi Xian pondered in his heart and finally made a decision. The Divine Wood Prison was not a good skill to use. After all, he was fighting above his level. Hence, the Divine Wood Prison was usually used in conjunction with Berserk Python Sweep. It was a bit of a waste. Alright, I will retract the Divine Wood Prison first. After making a decision, Yi Xian immediately did as he was told. He retracted 1 skill and obtained 1 devour point. Then, he proceeded with the bloodline fusion. Ding! The Divine Wood Prison has been successfully retracted. The host has obtained 1 devour point. When the system notification sounded, Yi Xian glanced at the panel. At this moment, he had obtained 3 devour points. Next, he would proceed with the cheapest support bloodline fusion. He wondered what bloodline would appear. Ding! The Tree of Life bloodline and Gemini bloodline are fusing. 3 devour points are required. Confirm? Hearing this, Yi Xian paused for a moment before replying, Confirm. Ding! Bloodline fusion commencing. Ding! Bloodline fusion is at 10%. Ding! Bloodline fusion is at 20%. Ding! Bloodline fusion is at 80%. Ding! Bloodline fusion is at 90%. Yi Xian held his breath and felt a little nervous. The bloodline fusion system was random. He thought that he would be able to see the new bloodline's effects after the fusion so that he could be mentally prepared. Ding! Bloodline fusion is at 100%. Bloodline fusion. The host has obtained the Immortal Phoenix bloodline. Do you wish to fuse it immediately? Yi Xian raised his eyebrows. What new abilities would the Immortal Phoenix bloodline have? Immediately he replied, Yes. Ding! Immortal Phoenix bloodline fusion. The system prompted. Yi Xian was burning with anxiety. He hurriedly took a glance and realized that the expansion columns of his auxiliary bloodline and auxiliary bloodline had merged. Now, his auxiliary bloodline was called the Immortal Phoenix bloodline. The bloodline fusion system was a fusion of 2 bloodlines. Under normal circumstances, it would have the ability to fuse the first 2 bloodlines. There were only 2 ways to advance the Immortal Divine Phoenix bloodline, and they were very simple. Undying Doppelganger. Currently has 3 doppelgangers. Dual fusion increases combat prowess by 60%. Triple fusion increases combat prowess by 80%. If a doppelganger dies, you can use the devour points to revive it. Fiery Rebirth. Super recovery speed and poison resistance. Increases fire resistance and the power of fire skills. The immortal phoenix bloodline also had the effect of creating clones, called the immortal clone. In other words, Yi Xian could still have one original body and two clones. He could also combine the clones to increase his battle strength. Most importantly, if a doppelganger died, he could use the devour points to revive it. The first time he revived a doppelganger, he only needed one devour point. Yi Xian remembered that before the Gemini bloodline fusion, dual fusion would increase combat prowess by 50%. Triple fusion would increase combat prowess by 60%. Now, the dual fusion of the immortal phoenix bloodline increased combat prowess by 10%. Triple fusion increased combat prowess by 20%. As for the fiery rebirth route, there were two additional effects. One was fire resistance, and the other was the power of fire skills. This meant that Yi Xian's peerless flame dragon slash and double dragon roar were stronger than before. Previously, the recovery speed and poison resistance of the sacred tree of life bloodline were separate. They were two advancement routes. Now that they were combined, there were two additional effects. This was the new bloodline after the bloodline fusion, the immortal phoenix bloodline. Great, this is great. There are only two advancement routes. If I get more devour points in the future, I can enhance any one of them and increase my combat prowess. Yi Xian was overjoyed. There were 4 advancement routes for the sacred tree of life bloodline and the Gemini bloodline. Now, there were only 2, which was very convenient. However, for the immortal doppelganger advancement route, he had to advance 3 times before he could get a new doppelganger. This was a little helpless, but it was much better than the previous 5 devour points to condense a doppelganger. Then, he focused on the immortal phoenix bloodline and found that it was an immortal level bloodline. Another immortal? Yi Xian narrowed his eyes. Old immortal Jianghu, Fairy Lu Li, immortal level bloodline. In his previous life, he had heard of immortals, which were those in the heavenly court. Could it be that there were immortals in this world too? Forget it, I won't think about it for now. I'm only in the void-breaking realm now, what's the point of thinking so much? Yi Xian shook his head and stopped thinking about it. Now that he had merged the 2 auxiliary bloodlines, he could only have 1 auxiliary bloodline now. If he wanted another, he would have to expand the auxiliary bloodline. However, after witnessing the power of the immortal divine phoenix bloodline, he was eager to merge the 2 bloodlines. He wondered what kind of powerful bloodline he would get if he merged the beast god bloodline and the heavenly eye bloodline. However, merging the auxiliary bloodline required 3 devour points, but merging the bloodline required more than 3 devour points. Even if he took back Wei Zhentian's Swordstorm and the Old Tree's Wild Python Sweep, he would only need 4 devour points. It was not enough to merge the 2 bloodlines. It's time to go. Yi Xian looked to the north. He broke through the void and arrived at the Earth Fiend Island. He had already arrived at the Earth Fiend Island, but Wei Zhentian happened to send news that Bai Yang had returned, so he broke through the void and returned. Right now, my Blade Storm and Wild Python Sweep are on cooldown, but I've already broken through to the 8th stage of the Fragmentation Realm, so I have the confidence to face a Nirvana Realm martial artist. I must find the location of the mysterious Nether Duo demons as soon as possible, lest they leave again. Yi Xian thought to himself. He leaped into the air and flew toward the Earth Fiend Island in front of him. The terrain here was a little strange. It was obviously in the Holy Land, but there was a sea area. This sea area was called the Unfrozen Sea Area, which meant that it would not freeze, even if he used the All Creations Force. Moreover, there was an invisible force in this sea area that prevented anyone who entered from walking on air. Yi Xian did not understand this and flew in directly. However, when he flew away from the shore, he suddenly felt a huge pressure. Chapter 1353. N. Yi Xian raised his eyebrows. His entire body floated into the sea. At the same time, he realized that there was a flight restriction array here. Young man, there is a flight restriction array in the Unfrozen Sea region. If you want to go to Earth Fiend Island, you have to take a boat. An old figure came from afar. Yi Xian turned around and saw that it was an old man fishing. He ignored the old man's words. Then, he activated his true energy and all creation's powers. However, he realized that he could not freeze the seawater. That's strange. Yi Xian was very surprised. The all creation's powers could turn into flames, lightning, and other forms. Now, they could not even freeze the seawater. There was indeed something wrong with this sea region. This is called the Unfrozen Sea region. It looks like it won't work, Yixian thought for a while. Then, he took out a small boat from his devouring space and prepared to push it towards Earth Fiend Island. However, at that moment the old man continued, "Young man, there are many whirlpools between this place and Earth Fiend Island. Even Nirvana Realm martial artists would most likely die if they were sucked in. Only experienced boatmen can avoid these whirlpools." Whirlpools? Nirvana Realm? When Yi Xian heard this, he felt a little surprised. Could it be that he could not escape from a whirlpool after being sucked in? Even Nirvana Realm martial artists would most likely die. This was too fake. However, this old man sounded like he was telling the truth. Yi Xian could not help but turn around to take a look. With one look, Yi Xian was shocked. Just now, he had seen that the old man fishing was only at the 7th stage of the fragmentation realm. However, he could not see through him now. Damn, Nirvana Realm? Yi Xian's eyes widened. He could not believe it. At first, he was at the 7th stage of the fragmentation realm. Now, he was at the Nirvana Realm. Where did this old man come from? Senior, is what you said true? Yi Xian could not help but ask. That's right. If you don't believe me, you can ask around. There is a harbor in the east that is specially used to reach Earth Fiend Island, the old man replied. Thank you. Yi Xian thanked him and then used his strength of all things to push the boat to the shore. Then, he headed towards the harbor that the old fisherman had mentioned. Soon, he arrived at the port. This harbor was called the Earth Emanations Harbor. Apart from going to the Earth Emanations Island, one could also cross the Unfrozen Sea region. However, the ships that could cross the Unfrozen Sea region only appeared once a month. When Yi Xian reached the harbor, someone immediately approached him and asked if he was heading to Earth Emanations Island. After Yi Xian nodded, the other party reported the price. This small amount of money was nothing to Yi Xian. The Earth Emanations Island was actually a faction that was similar to a sect. However, the outer island could be used as a place for others to stay. Hence, anyone could go to the Earth Emanations Island as long as they had the money. The boatman that Yi Xian found had 3 years of experience and had never made a single mistake. Of course, this wasn't 100% safe either. After all, new whirlpools would appear in the Unfrozen Sea region from time to time. If they happened to form one under their feet, they could only blame their bad luck. There were 2 other Earth Emanations sect disciples traveling with Yi Xian. They were both at the 7th stage of the fragmentation realm. They weren't old either. They were both in their 20s and were probably outer sect disciples. The moment they boarded the ship, they were controlled by Yi Xian without anyone noticing. Not only that, even the boatman at the 7th stage of the fragmentation realm was controlled by Yi Xian. This ship was very small. After all, it could only seat 4 people. Furthermore, in the Unfrozen Sea region, the smaller the ship, the safer it was. It would be easier to avoid the whirlpools. After the ship sailed, Yi Xian took out 2 portraits from his devouring space. They were of the Shen Ming duo. Have the 3 of you seen them before? Yi Xian asked. The 2 Earth Emanations sect disciples shook their heads. However, the boatman's eyes lit up as he said, I've seen them before. They seem to be brought to the Earth Emanations Island by my father. Your father? Hearing this, Yi Xian narrowed his eyes and asked, Where is your father? My father left an hour earlier than me. He should have arrived at the Earth Emanations Island by now. The middle-aged boatman replied. An hour? Yi Xian turned around and looked. The Earth Emanations harbor wasn't far from the Earth Emanations Island. Why did they need an hour to arrive? Originally, it would only take about 10 minutes. However, there was a huge whirlpool along the way. That's why we had to take a longer route, the middle-aged boatman replied immediately. All right. Once we reach the Earth Emanations Island, look for your father immediately. Yi Xian nodded and changed the topic. Why doesn't the seawater freeze in the Unfrozen Sea region? There's also a flight restriction array. I heard that even Nirvana Realm martial artists would most likely die if they were sucked into the whirlpool. The seawater doesn't freeze and you can't fly. I'm not sure either. However, I heard that the whirlpool is created by some powerful heaven-connecting beasts. They hide in the whirlpool at the bottom of the sea. Any living thing that gets sucked in will be devoured by them, the middle-aged boatman replied. I see. Yi Xian instantly understood. He had thought that the whirlpools were naturally formed. In the unfrozen sea region, the deeper you go, the heavier it gets. I heard that even Nirvana realm martial artists would fall to the 9th stage of the fragmentation realm after diving 10,000 meters, let alone other people, the middle-aged boatman continued. Then we won't run into these whirlpools, right? Yi Xian asked worriedly. These whirlpools were created by heaven-connecting beasts. If it was a Nirvana realm heaven-connecting beast, even he would have a hard time escaping. When that happened, he would be devoured. Master, don't worry. The whirlpool beasts below have a pattern when they change places. The Earth Emanation sect's martial artists predicted that there wouldn't be any huge whirlpools in the next few days, the middle-aged boatman said solemnly. That's good. Yi Xian nodded. To be honest, he had a bad feeling about this. Perhaps it was because they were in the unfrozen sea region. He hoped that nothing would happen. Fortunately, the capsize that he feared did not happen. The middle-aged boatman successfully brought him around all the big and small whirlpools and successfully arrived at the Earth Emanations Island. Where's your father? After disembarking, Yi Xian asked directly. The middle-aged boatman surveyed his surroundings and shook his head. Father isn't around. Perhaps he left with someone else. The route to the Earth Emanations Island is different from the route we took when we left. If that's the case, then forget it. Yi Xian sighed and said to the 2 7th-stage fragmentation realm Earth Emanation sect disciples, "Bring me to the Earth Emanation sect." Yes. The 2 Earth Emanation sect disciples nodded and left the harbor, entering the forest. Following that, Yi Xian got one of the disciples to leave while he planned to disguise himself as that disciple and enter the Earth Emanation sect to investigate the Xianming duo demons. The Earth Emanation sect was a force that could match Fire Cloud Palace. They had many Nirvana realm martial artists and had a rich foundation. Chapter 1354. When Yi Xian heard the disciple beside him mention the Earth Fiend elixir, he instinctively searched for it and realized that it could not be exchanged. However, he had the recipe to refine the Earth Fiend elixir. The Earth Fiend elixir is refined from the aura of a strange heaven-reaching beast. This heaven-reaching beast is called the Earth Fiend. The aura they emit is called the Fiend Qi. If an ordinary person is infected by the Fiend Qi, it will quickly affect their temperament. Yi Xian raised an eyebrow. The fact that the Earth Fiend sect could refine the Earth Fiend elixir meant that there were heaven-reaching beasts in the Earth Fiend sect. However, heaven-reaching beasts like the Earth Fiend were extremely dangerous. There were often sects that did not protect themselves properly and were infected by the Fiend Qi, causing the entire sect to kill each other. At this moment, a thought flashed across Yi Xian's mind. As long as he could catch an Earth Fiend, he could bring it into the planting space to cultivate. Then, he would be able to produce an endless supply of Earth Fiend elixirs. He could not consume the elixirs that were exchanged in the planting space. However, he could refine the elixirs himself. Simply put, the Earth Fiend elixir was useful to him too. As he thought about it, the disciple led him to the Earth Fiend sect. However, just as they were about to arrive, they realized that the Earth Fiend sect had undergone a huge change. In the distance, loud explosions and screams could be heard continuously. Could it be? Yi Xian raised an eyebrow. He was just thinking about this problem. Could it be that it was here now? If it was true, then his luck was really good. Let's go. Immediately, Yi Xian quickened his pace. When he arrived, he really did see a chaotic Earth Fiend sect. Everyone was killing each other. The ground was littered with corpses and screams could be heard continuously. At the same time, there were arrogant laughs. Ha ha ha, Senior Brother Chen, aren't you very powerful? Why are you so weak? Guardian to think that you are a guardian. You can't even beat my disciple. Why don't you just kill yourself? I have already mastered the 36 swords of awakening. Even inner sect disciples will be killed by my sword. I will become the strongest person in the Earth Fiend sect. Arrogant voices fell into Yi Xian's ears. Hearing this, Yi Xian immediately understood. What he had guessed just now was indeed happening. Of course, what made him certain was that the formless aura that filled the entire Earth Malice sect was the baleful Qi. The Earth Fiend sect was already shrouded by the baleful aura. Everyone's mental state was probably affected by it. At the same time, Yi Xian could also tell that this was the Berserk aura. It was an aura that could make people furious, irritable, and barbaric. In addition, there was also the aura of anger, the aura of confusion, the aura of hatred, the aura of doubt, the aura of fear, and the aura of pride. There were 7 in total. In comparison, the berserk qi was the most terrifying of the 7 evils. This was because once one's mind was affected by this baleful aura, as long as there was someone around, they would fight to the death. Compared to the aura of madness, the aura of doubt and the aura of perplexity were much better. Speaking of which, but now that the Earth Malevolent sect was bursting forth with a baleful aura, it seemed like some accident must have happened while they were rearing the Earth Malevolent. Yi Xian looked at the chaotic Earth Malice sect in front of him. Suddenly, a system notification sounded in his mind. Ding! Host has triggered a chain random mission. The first round of the mission is to clean up the Earth Malice sect martial artists who have been tainted by the berserk aura. There are 1,000 of them. The requirement is that the martial artist's realm must not be lower than the 7th level of the fragmentation realm. The time limit is 10 minutes. After hearing that, Yi Xian trembled. He had actually triggered a chain random mission again. This was great. At least 1,000 of them can't fight against the 7th level of the fragmentation realm Earth Malice sect martial artists? Yi Xian narrowed his eyes. His figure instantly shot out. Luo Luo, Wei Zhentian, and the old tree appeared one after another. Apart from that, he also used his Eye of the Soul to control a few 9th level of the fragmentation realm Earth Malice sect protectors. 10 minutes? That was too long. Wei Zhentian was already at the 9th level of the fragmentation realm. It was really effortless for him to kill 7th and 8th level martial artists. Although the old tree was still at the 7th level of the fragmentation realm and could not deal with 9th level martial artists, it was not a problem for him to deal with some lower level martial artists. As for Luo Luo, it was needless to say. With her 9 tails, she only needed a glance to charm 8th level martial artists. In a few seconds, Yi Xian's camp had more than 50 helpers. In a short while, the first round of this random mission was completed. Ding! Host has completed the first round of the chain random mission. Ding! The second round of the chain random mission has been triggered. Kill 3 Earth Malice sect elders who have been tainted by the aura of madness. Hearing that, Yi Xian raised his eyebrows. The Earth Malice sect elders were all at the Nirvana realm. He actually wanted to kill 3 of them? Yi Xian glanced over and was extremely shocked. He realized that the mission time was the first round, and there were only slightly more than 9 minutes left. F***CK, killing 3 Nirvana realm elders in 9 minutes. Yi Xian cursed in his heart. Fortunately, he had broken through to the 8th level of the fragmentation realm. Otherwise, he would definitely not be able to complete this mission. No, that's not right. Now that the elders have also been tainted by the aura of madness, their minds are affected. They can only attack savagely, but I can sneak up on them. Yi Xian raised his eyebrows. This aura of madness could not affect him at all. Even Luo Luo and the others were not a problem, let alone him. If the aura of suspicion had erupted this time, everyone would be suspicious of each other and it would be impossible to sneak up on them. But this time, it was the aura of madness. There are 2 Nirvana realm auras over there. Yi Xian turned his head and looked into the distance. Immediately, he rushed over. These 2 Nirvana realm elders of the Earth Malice sect were probably fighting. This way, Yi Xian could sneak up on them. Ha ha ha, Elder Qiu. Didn't you break through to the Nirvana realm earlier than me? Why are you so weak now? Elder Lin, you have been tainted by the aura of madness. You must calm down as soon as possible. Otherwise you will go berserk. An old man advised as he retreated. Yi Xian was a little surprised when he heard this from afar. This Elder Qiu was actually not affected by the aura of madness and was still conscious. However, he reckoned that Elder Qiu would not be able to hold on much longer. After all, he had to defend against Elder Lin's attacks and the aura of madness at the same time. Most importantly, he had to be on guard against the other elders who had lost their minds. If he was surrounded, he would definitely die. This Elder Qiu's mind is not affected by the aura of madness. Yi Xian was a little hesitant. He thought that it would be 2 elders who had lost their minds fighting. He did not expect that there would only be 1. Besides, that Elder Qiu was still rational. It would be difficult for him to attack. However, at this moment, a muffled sound suddenly came from afar. Elder Qiu was hit by Elder Lin's punch. After spitting out a mouthful of blood, he was sent flying. Chapter 1355. Lin Hang, I'm going to kill you. Elder Qiu suddenly roared and charged forward. In the blink of an eye, it was as though he had become a completely different person. he became extremely violent. Seeing this, Yi Xian's hesitation disappeared. It seemed that Elder Qiu had also been affected by the murderous aura. Since that was the case, he would kill both of them. He immediately sneaked behind Elder Lin. He was only at the 8th stage of the fragmentation realm. Naturally, the two of them would not take him seriously. As such, the success rate of his sneak attack was as high as 80%. Although it was impossible to fly in the Unisea Ocean domain, it was possible on Earth Demon's Island. Yi Xian flew at a low altitude for a while before sneaking into a nearby shadow. Boom! 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 Elder Qiu and Elder Lin were fighting fiercely. Yi Xian hid in the darkness, preparing to launch a sneak attack. Bam! At that moment, Elder Qiu was suddenly sent flying by Elder Lin's punch. After all, he was injured just now. It was understandable that he was at a disadvantage. This scene fell into Yi Xian's eyes, and 2 beams of light shot out from his eyes. Good chance! Swish! Instantly, Yi Xian shot out like a cannonball. He held the scarlet flame sword tightly in his hand and slashed down fiercely when he got close. Burst of killing intent. Unparalleled flaming dragon slash. After merging with the immortal divine phoenix bloodline, the power of the unparalleled flaming dragon slash increased tremendously. It was probably comparable to the double dragon roar from before. Hearing the roar, Elder Lin raised his eyebrows. When he turned around, he was already swallowed by the golden flaming dragon. Whoosh! Whoosh! The golden flaming dragon swallowed Elder Lin into its stomach. However, Elder Lin had used the Nirvana fire to protect himself. Nevertheless, Yi Xian had many tricks up his sleeve. After a loud bang, Elder Lin's scream came from the golden flaming dragon's stomach. There was an eye of destruction hidden in the golden flaming dragon's stomach. Elder Lin's Nirvana fire protection was destroyed by the eye of destruction, and he was burned by the golden flaming dragon. When the golden flaming dragon dissipated, another golden flash appeared beside it. Swish! 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 9 reincarnation flash. 4th flash. Swish! Hiss! Luo Luo used the 3rd Samsara flash to increase her speed and cut off Elder Lin's head with the 4th Samsara flash. Ding! Host's killing intent has increased. A system notification sounded out, causing Yi Xian's killing intent to soar by a large amount. When he accepted Elder Lin's universe ring, even his cultivation had skyrocketed. Since Elder Lin was already dead, it would be Elder Qiu's turn next since he was also affected by the berserk fiendish qi. Dang! Elder Qiu shifted his anger onto Yi Xian and charged towards him. 100-fold Demon Fox Clone. Secret technique, purifying demonic lotus flame. A huge lotus flower descended and smashed towards Elder Qiu. Elder Qiu's face was gloomy as he threw a huge flaming palm at the sky. Bang! The 2 true qis collided and shockwaves rolled out. However, this time, they were not evenly matched. Elder Qiu was slightly stronger. The last time Luo Luo and Bei Yang fought to a draw, it was because Bei Yang had just broken through to the Nirvana realm. However, Elder Qiu had broken through many years ago. Unless Luo Luo broke through to the 8th stage of the fragmentation realm, Elder Qiu was still stronger in terms of attack power. However, when the purifying demonic lotus flame descended, Yi Xian had already made his move. Killing intent explosion. Unparalleled flaming dragon slash. Another golden flaming dragon roared out. The Sword God bloodline and the Immortal Phoenix bloodline both increased the golden flaming dragon's attack power. Elder Qiu had just used the Nirvana fire and could only use a small amount this time. He punched out with his left fist and a fist shadow collided with the golden flaming dragon. Boom! The golden flame dragon exploded, and a golden slash swept out from it. Eye of destruction. Elder Lin had suffered a loss just now. Although Elder Qiu's mind was affected, he had not become stupid. Swish! The annihilation slash brushed past Elder Qiu's body. However, this time, Yi Xian had a backup plan. Whoosh! After Elder Qiu dodged the annihilation slash, he realized that the sound of the wind did not go far away. Instead, it was rapidly approaching. Rip! A crisp sound was heard. The Skyquake sword pierced Elder Qiu's chest directly. Then, countless sharp spikes extended from the Skyquake sword and pierced Elder Qiu's heart and other organs into a sieve. Elder Qiu could not help but spit out a mouthful of blood. After glaring fiercely at Yi Xian, his eyes turned white and he fell from the sky. Ding! Host's killing intent has increased. Yi Xian's killing intent skyrocketed again. This time, if I don't break through to the 9th stage of the fragmentation realm and slaughter this Earth Fiend sect, I might be able to obtain a few more devour points. Yi Xian's eyes lit up. The people of the Earth Fiend sect were all infected with a violent, murderous aura. They were extremely violent. If they were allowed to leave Earth Fiend Island, the surrounding families and forces would most likely be annihilated. However, the second round of the mission was to kill 3 Nirvana Realm Elders. The third round would be even more difficult. If he did not break through, he did not know if he could complete it. It would be a huge loss to lose this chain random mission just for a few devour points. Forget it. Let's take a look first. Yi Xian flew over and took Elder Qiu's universe ring. There were many things inside, but it was not enough for him to break through. He was already 2/3 of the way through the second round of the chain random mission. All he had to do was to kill another Nirvana Realm Elder. Yi Xian began to wander around. Using his extraordinary senses, he quickly found the 3rd Nirvana Realm Elite. What made him feel helpless was that the 3rd Nirvana Realm Elder of the Earth Fiend sect was actually killing the protectors and elite disciples of the sect. He was having a great time killing them. No, Elder, go. Don't kill me. I didn't. Quick. Run. You've already lost your mind. You bunch of brats. You're always thinking of slacking off. Dang. Elder Go laughed and began to kill in a frenzy. At this moment, Yi Xian had already flown behind Elder Go and was ready to launch a sneak attack. Yi Xian was only at the 8th stage of the fragmentation realm. Elder Go was chasing 2 elite disciples at the 9th stage of the fragmentation realm. Naturally, Yi Xian would not be taken seriously by him. Killing intent explosion. Unparalleled flame dragon slash. After seizing the opportunity, Yi Xian immediately attacked. This time it was still 3 stacks. What? Elder Go suddenly turned his head and swiftly slashed with his sword. Rumble. The golden flame dragon was defeated, but Elder Go underestimated Yi Xian. Whoosh. The annihilation slash struck and cut off Elder Go's head. Ding. Host's killing intent has increased. The system notified. Yi Xian quickly flew over and took Elder Go's universe ring. His cultivation base skyrocketed. As for the 2 elite disciples of the Earth Fiend sect who were being hunted, they were controlled by Yi Xian's Eye of the Mind.